National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces after the 2014 general elections and the establishment of the Fifth Parliament.
Now, a special word of welcome to all of those watching this broadcast at viewing centres across the nation. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Now, you can hear the music in the background, and that, of course, is coming from the Air Force Band under the baton of Lieutenant Commander Mateus Pienaar, who's the orchestra is providing the entertainment at the entrance to the National Assembly.
Well, while we take you through the proceedings at this very formal state occasion, we'll also talk about the parliamentary agenda for 2014. But before we go there, perhaps we should point out that there's quite a lot of things expectations, people's expectations of what President Jacob Zuma should be talking about, but also what Parliament itself, through the Speaker, Baleka Mbete, as well as the National Council of Provinces Chair, has said are the sort of things to expect that should be on the agenda of this Parliament's program for the remainder of the year and, of course, the next 5 years.
Well, absolutely, you're quite right. And, well, this we're going to see is the President's evening. It really is. He's going to be addressing Parliament, he's going to be addressing the nation, and this event marks the beginning of the new parliamentary year. It also coincides with the 20th anniversary of democratically elected Parliament, and that indeed is the theme for this year as well, when there's always a theme that's adopted by the State of the Nation and the opening of Parliament, and that's the theme that's been adopted this year is 20 years of democratically elected Parliament. So in celebrating the 20th anniversary of our democracy, a statue of our former President Nelson Mandela, the first democratically elected president, was erected in front of the National Assembly, which you'll see in a very, very short while. But there on your screen at the moment, you're seeing that band that is entertaining the crowds as they arrive. They have been arriving since around about 3 o'clock this afternoon, all dressed to the nines. There you can see is the DA leader and Helen Zille. She is there. And we've got Asanda, who is also one of the reporters that's on the red carpet. So let's cross to her right now and find out who she's been talking to. Asanda.
Helen Zille is already here. Ma'am, you've decided to go for a quieter, simpler look for this opening of Parliament. Any particular reason?
Well, it's the second opening of Parliament this year, and I think it deserves a much more muted focus. I decided to go for this look. It's a winter look, and I bought this at a vintage shop in Hermanus. And I believe that in a state of economic decline as we currently are, it's best to be more modest and more focused.
Let's talk a bit more about those issues that you would want the President to address today, starting with the issue of the economic climate, but also social delivery programs that have been spoken about earlier in the year, but also at the inauguration. What would you like the President to focus on tonight?
I would like the President to tell us how we are going to implement the National Development Plan. That is what we have to do. We have to focus on the priority of the economy and not just give it rhetorical support. The President must make hard choices now and put the economy, not his alliance partners, first.
As we go into the fifth administration, but also the fifth Parliament, Parliament has a big role to do oversight. As opposition parties, have you had time to sit and say, these are the issues we would like Parliament to do with this fifth Parliament?
Yes, we've spent the entire weekend away focusing as the DA caucus on precisely those issues we will take up, those we will apply oversight on, the issues we will take up and debate on behalf of the nation, and the laws that we will present so that South Africa can continue and grow into a prosperous society with opportunities for all.
Well, ma'am, thank you very much. That's the leader of the DA and Premier of the Western Cape, Helen Zille. More guests are streaming on the red carpet, and we'll chat a bit more to them. Vanessa Puna, my colleague, is also on the red carpet. She'll join us a bit later on with more guests. For now, let's go back to Leanne and Vuyo in the studio.
Well, thanks, Lee. to Asanda Mbeche. Asanda, of course, will be bringing you live, I must say, all the politicians and everybody else as they come through, as they step on that red carpet. For now, though, we're going to go to the Flame of Remembrance, where Lukhanyo Talata is standing by. He's going to tell us the significance of being where he is standing, but also what to expect from him from that vantage point. Lukhanyo?
Well, good evening. I'm standing right here at the Flame of Remembrance, where for the duration of today's official proceedings, 2 members of the armed forces will continue to keep guard over the flame. Now, you would know that the Flame of Remembrance, of course, burns in perpetual memory in honor of South Africans who had lost their lives fighting in wars that our republic had obviously participated in. It also burns to remember the lives of those very brave men and women who had lost their lives in their struggle against apartheid. Now, if you're familiar with Parliament, even with Cape Town as well, you would know that the Flame of Remembrance is right adjacent to Plain Street, and it's also slightly to the left of the statue of General Louis Botha, or the man on the horse, as he's most commonly referred to here in Parliament. Now, for the duration of this event, as I've mentioned, it's now ladies. They get changed every 20 minutes or so, where different members of the armed forces will come and march and keep guard over this flame. Now, this precinct where I'm broadcasting from is also part of the Style Plain precinct, where the ceremonial part of tonight's State of the Nation address is obviously taking place. Now, in a few minutes' time, I will be joined by Brigadier General Xolani Mabanga to talk to us a little bit about the significance of having the armed forces as part of the ceremonial part as part of the pomp and ceremony, let me rather say, of the State of the Nation address. And he'll also be able to tell us a little bit more in detail about the Flame of Remembrance. But for now, from me, from the Flame of Remembrance, I cross you back to the studio.
All right, Lukhanyo, thank you very, very much. It is quite an incredible backdrop there when you do stand and you stand by that Flame of Remembrance. And I do remember earlier this year, it was actually draped with the photograph and a beautiful image of our former President Nelson Mandela. So he was
solemnity about being that part of Parliament that is actually difficult to describe. To someone. It's just something that you sort of begin to feel, and especially when you start thinking about all our fallen heroes, the things that have happened in our country for many, many years, and to right where we are. Yeah, indeed it is. So we'll be crossing to Lukhanyo a little bit later on in the program. But right now, let's cross to another one of our reporters who is on the red carpet. Vanessa, who is your guest with you?
Joining me on the red carpet here at the opening of Parliament is also senior ANC MP Ms. Thoko Didiza. Now, we know that the opening of Parliament is generally a fashion affair, but there's also more serious matters that the MPs will be taking forward after the President's address. Ma'am, good evening to you. And just in terms of the 5th Democratic Parliament, what is it that the work of the 400 members will focus on after the President's speech this evening?
As you know, that the responsibility of Parliament is actually lawmaking, but also the oversight to the executive, and also encouraging society to have a voice in expressing what their views are. And I think in this coming 5th Parliament, we expect no less that there will be increased participation of our people with the members of Parliament in their constituencies, but also in making sure that they bring their representations when necessary on issues of regulations and legislation, but also on matters of policy and strategy. Obviously, Parliament's role is to also ensure that our government does meet the objective that it has set itself for. And therefore, in terms of our oversight, we would look at how far, in terms of the commitments that are made, we're able to change the lives of our people. So we have a responsibility to make sure that the legislation that we promulgate or the legislation that we produce in this Parliament enable the executive to do its work.
And there's also a lot of focus this evening on what exactly President Jacob Zuma will be talking about when it comes to the matters of the economy. Surely this will be one of the big talking points this evening as well.
Yes, indeed. You would recall that the ANC's manifesto itself has put a lot of emphasis on matters of the economy, but also on issues of youth unemployment and how we could create the possibility for employment, and how we can make our economy to be inclusive while it grows at the same time, and also how your broad-based black economic empowerment can indeed encompass more people than it is. What is also remarkable is the focus in terms of government's focus on small and medium enterprises, which we have seen through the setting up of a new ministry that is going to focus on small and medium enterprises, which in my view indicates that the economy discussion or discourse in our country is not only looking at the large private sector, it's also looking at how you could mobilize your small and medium enterprises to be the anchor of our economy as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Toko Didiza. Talking there about inclusivity, not only of the work of Parliament, but inclusivity when it comes to matter of building this economy and taking it forward. Back to you in studio, Leanne Mvuyo.
Well, thanks there to Vanessa Puna, who is standing by, who together, of course, with Asanda, will be bringing you all that will be happening on that red carpet. But of course, apart from the pomp and ceremony, this occasion is in fact a very formal one. Lots of expectations, given that we've just come out of an election. Lots of expectations of the ANC and its government, what they will be doing, but also the opposition parties, especially the new kids on the block. What are they bringing to the party? All those questions and more, of course, we'll be trying to answer for you throughout this broadcast, bringing those players, of course, to you and getting you to hear directly from them. But that's later, of course, after the President Jacob Zuma will have delivered that all-important address around 7 o'clock. For now, though, we go back to Lucanyo Talata, who is at the Garden of Remembrance. Lucanyo?
Vuyo, thank you very much. Yes, I'm now joined by Brigadier General Xolani Mabanga to tell us a little bit more about the flame that's behind me and also about the procession today. Sir, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to our program.
It's my pleasure.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the significance of today.
Well, the significance of today is that it is the second in this year of the opening of the Parliament, or the State of the Nation address by the President. Now, you remember early this year, before elections, we had one. Then now, as a rule, that after the election, when a new government has been appointed, and then we should also have a State of the Nation address.
And the military's presence, how are you involved in everything that's taking place today?
We're involved mostly to provide ceremonial aspects of the event itself or the activities, like providing the guard of honor, the street lining, the aide-de-camps, the people that normally accompanies the president, as well as the people who will be receiving and welcoming people at the doorsteps.
Now, tell us a little bit about how those units that are deployed here, how are they positioned?
Well, in terms of being positioned here, we will have street lining from the doors of the Parliament going down the street, Adderley Street, who will be receiving or being in line in order to receive the officials. And then we will also have the guard of honor that will be assembled just in front of the Parliament when the President and the head of government and Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force arrives. Then they will play the national salute as well as give him a guard of honor and the national anthem.
Okay, and then we know that the Army's here, the Navy's here. How are they involved in the process, and how are they positioned? Where are they placed?
Well, the Army will be involved together with other small elements from the state security organs in order to provide and to ensure that everything is performed and conducted under a safe and secure environment. We will also have certain elements from the South African Navy who will also be assisting with that. We have the elements of the South African Military Health Service who will also give support when it comes to medical assistance and medical support as may be required for the event or to ensure that everything is fine. We will have the South African Air Force, depending on the weather, if if there's no much visibility, we may not have it. That is the fly past by the Air Force. But if the visibility tends to be too bad, we will not have that. We will have again the gun troop that will play or render the 21 gun salute as a norm, as well as the national band from this national ceremonial that will also provide the band music.
All right. So, and then just tell us, why is the Army considered the senior force in this in today's proceedings?
Well, in history of the existence or the establishment of nations, we all know that they all come up from other military forces or military establishments that were there to establish or to ensure that that state is established and is secured. Therefore, the military tends to play or to have that significance in recognition of the state as an existing establishment. So the military has a role to play in ceremonies like this.
All right. And then just lastly, what can you tell us about where we are right now in terms of the flame?
Well, where we stand now, just to my left, you will have the flame of remembrance that is burning throughout, which has been designed to symbolize or to pay homage to all those men and women who might have fallen in the battle to ensure that there is a state existing or the Republic of South Africa exists as a sovereign country, as a sovereign state. So they might have died within the borders of South Africa, or they might have died outside the borders of South Africa in pursuance of peace or the existence of South Africa as a government.
All right. And then, sir, before I let you go.
Well, Lukhanyo has just spoken about that route. Let's now take a look at that route, the route that the President and the Deputy President will be following this evening.
All right, now, so the route of President Jacob Zuma's motorcade has slightly changed due to construction work at the bottom of Adderley Street. So unlike on previous occasions, the motorcade will approach Parliament from Strand Street. It'll go up Adderley and then it'll turn left into Spin Street. Now, the procession will then turn right into Parliament Street, leading up to Africa House. That's just opposite the National Assembly. Of course, we are going to be covering that all live for you, so you'll be able to see that on your television screen as soon as the President and the Deputy President arrive here.
Well, for now, though, we're going to go to Asanda Mbeje, who is on the red carpet.
Well, a couple that's always looking stunning on the red carpet every SONA is always, and I mean always, Nkosi Mandla Zwelivelile Mandela with his wife, again looking stunning this year. Somebody needs to help us understand, where do you get these traditional outfits done every SONA?
Well, they are inspired out of our community, Mvezo Komkhulu, knowing that it's my grandfather's birthplace and it's where the roots of the Mandela chieftaincy are located. And every time when we come to the red carpet, we try and capture most what comes out of our village and ensure that we fly the flag high of our birthplace and where we come from. But this year we've had the assistance of Bongiwe Walaza, who contributed in ensuring that we look stunning on the red carpet. So applause goes to her.
Ma'am, give us an idea. What was there a discussion on what you'd want your outfit to look like? Because it's absolutely stunning with great detail.
Thank you. Not really. Hey, this year she just wanted to try something a bit modern but also cultural. So it's just her creation.
I'm going to ask you to quickly turn around for us, so that we can take all of this outfit in, please. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Bye.
They're looking absolutely stunning, I have to say. That looks magnificent.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Clearly, they may not have spoken about it, as she says, but certainly a lot of effort.
Oh, there was a lot of effort put into that one. That
putting that outfit together. Well, the President, of course, returns to Parliament with a new 5-year contract as leader of the ruling party, following the ANC's victory at the polls. President Zuma's second term comes with a reduced majority, I should say, from previous years, but is also taking up his second term in office with a new deputy president, it must be said, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. Yeah. One, of course, should also note that the president has made some remarkable changes to his cabinet, splitting some departments, scrapping others, and creating new ones.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, one new portfolio is actually the Department of Small Business Development, which many businesses are very, very happy about. And that's led by Minister Lindiwe Zulu. And Ms. Lindiwe Zulu is the former international advisor to the president. She formed part of the mediation team for a political settlement in Zimbabwe. Now, going back to the red carpet, having a look, there's Mmusi Maimane, who is the parliamentary leader of the official opposition, the DA. And there you can see that naughty puppet in the corner, Chester Messing. And he's messing around on the red carpet. That goes without saying. Actually, I saw him as I walked in, and he said he was going to give all these parliamentarians a hard time. So there he is with his wife, looking absolutely beautiful as well. I had a conversation with him this morning, and he said he's looking so forward to his new role, his new position within Parliament. Nervous, but excited. It's a big role for him.
Well, it's quite an interesting development because you will recall that there were lots of conversations within the Democratic Alliance over who would take over from Lindiwe Mazibuko. Who, as we know, her own departure was quite, shall we, it was eventful, to say the very least. And thereafter, of course, a lot of people did talk about whether Mmusi Maimane, who was the DA's premier candidate in Gauteng, would in fact be that person, because some other people thinking that the more experienced and fairly senior people who are in Parliament and who've been in Parliament for quite a while should be the ones taking over. But guess what? At the end of it all, he went uncontested.
Yeah, he did indeed. And I think many people are expecting a lot from him. But I think one of the wonderful things that people are excited about in this particular Parliament, the fifth democratically elected Parliament, is the fact that there is a lot of young blood in there. And I'm not saying that Lindiwe wasn't young, because she was young as well. But I think Mmusi comes in with a lot of other younger blood. We look at the EFF, who we've seen arriving on the red carpet in their red overalls and mining outfits, but there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of young blood, and I think Ms. Baleka Mbete, the Speaker of Parliament, has got her hands full. Certainly got her hands full.
Well, one hopes that people are not going to say it's the juniorization of Parliament, because I actually think that you need to pump new energy and blood and everything that goes with that. And as you correctly pointed out, I mean, quite a few young leaders of their own parties. There's one, Julius Malema, who's leading his own party, third largest. 25, over 1 million people voted for that political party. Mmusi Maimane is the leader of the Democrat. I mean, look at the whips as well. I mean, the United Democratic Movement has a young whip of the same age as Julius and Mmusi Maimane, which I think is a good thing. One hopes that they will be, as much as they need to bring in changes, but they will be humble enough to actually know that they need to learn from some of the people who came before them. For now, though, we're going to Vanessa, who is also on the red carpet.
And also joining us on the red carpet this evening is none other than Mr. Mmusi Maimane. Sir, it must be quite an event for you to be coming in and joining this fifth Parliament to hear President Jacob Zuma's address this evening.
Yeah, it's an absolute privilege to be one of 400 South Africans who will sit here and really decide on legislation for South Africa, but equally so be able to contribute to democracy. So it's a great privilege to be able to be a part of it.
As a young person, and I don't mean the word disrespectfully, but as a young person, what is the message then to young South Africans? We did celebrate Youth Day yesterday, and there is a specific message to the young people of South Africa to come forward and then also participate in building this country.
Young people in South Africa have always been at the forefront. You know, for me, the personal message was I can remember, or at least reading about Nelson Mandela's first address as a young South African who said things must change. It was then a generation of 76 who went to the forefront and said things must change. it is our generation now to stand up and say things must change for the better of South Africa. So I think young people have got a great opportunity at this time.
Thank you very much for joining me. That's Mr. Mmusi Maimane, speaking specifically to the youth of South Africa to come in and once again reclaim their place in society. Back to you in studio.
All right, Vanessa, thank you very, very much. Stopping everybody as they're walking in. That was Mmusi Maimane, the parliamentary leader for the DA and representing the DA in Parliament. Now, it's quite interesting to have a look and see how the representation of the Democratic Alliance has actually grown after these general elections. If we look at the seats, they have 89 seats, and that's compared to 67 in 2009. So that's a significant growth. And you mentioned a bit earlier, Vuyo, the new kids on the block, the Economic Freedom Fighters, with 25 seats. And then the other new party that's going to be represented, the National Freedom Party, they have 6 seats. So that's the new faces of Parliament that we're talking about here on the program. And something else we're looking at, it's the fashion. Now there's a tattoo for you. That's quite interesting, Vuyo.
Yes.
I'll leave it to you to comment on that one.
On our back, well. It's quite interesting how sort of people do different things to sort of draw attention to themselves, which I guess makes this occasion not a dull and boring one, just full of politicians and so on. But I mean, the fashion is a huge part. I mean, people go all out to really make an impression.
They certainly do. However, I think the biggest impression is made by the EFF, who went out not to make an impression when it comes to spending lots and lots of money on suits and dresses, instead opting to come in their traditional overalls and coming into Parliament dressed like that.
But I think the good thing that's probably going to come out of there, because I mean the Speaker of the National Assembly, Baleka Mbete, did raise is that there needs to be a conversation about what is appropriate. Yes. And I think it's one of the good, we're arguing with colleagues over breakfast this morning about this same issue, about whether in fact this is good or not. And I think we broadly agreed among ourselves that it is probably one of the best things to have happened, because you wouldn't have had this conversation if you didn't have these, shall we call them rebels? Not quite, but you get my point. Yeah, because if you didn't have these people who are pushing the envelope, right, then we wouldn't be having a conversation about what is fit and proper. If you are saying or claiming to be a political party that looks after the interests, of the poor especially, what is an appropriate dress? How best do you represent their needs, their everything, but even at a symbolic level? So, and we wouldn't be having that conversation if the EFF didn't do what they are doing.
No, they certainly didn't. And I had a conversation earlier with Madam Speaker Baleka Mbete, and I raised this exact issue, this issue that everybody's been speaking about since the swearing-in ceremony. And I asked her, what's going to happen? And she said, listen, the swearing-in ceremony had nothing to do with me. I wasn't in charge of that. It was our Chief Justice, Mogoeng. So he had no problem with it. He said, but it's now Parliament, it's opening and it's going to be sitting. Now, I may have a problem with it, but we'll look in it, we'll engage in conversation and we'll take it from there.
Well, and we'll certainly be watching that conversation with keen interest. Well, the man you're seeing right now is the minister in the presidency, Jeff Radebe. I did have a very short conversation with him on the day the ministers and their deputies were being sworn in. He's the man who will be monitoring and evaluating his fellow cabinet colleagues. Not an easy task at all, because remember, President Jacob Zuma has said, and people will be looking forward to hear or to see if he in fact delivers on his promise. You either shape up or you get shipped out.
Exactly.
So we're going to see if that's going to happen. And of course, Minister Jeff Radebe, whom you saw there with his wife, Bridget, will be helping President Jacob Zuma do exactly that.
Indeed, absolutely. Looking also very beautiful there. Bridget Radebe walking up the red carpet. So this is the view that we have as the sun starts to set here in the mother city. It's a beautiful evening. It has got a chill. There is a bit of a bite, but it's not stopping anybody. And I've been told that we should be grateful it's happening this week and not last week. Now, you will remember that this was actually moved. It was meant to be taking place on the 19th of June, but on the President's request, request. It was moved forward until today, this of course being the 17th of June, and the reason being that this would afford the President the opportunity to be able to attend the African Union Summit in Equatorial Guinea. It's on the 25th to the 26th of June. So that was the reason that the State of the Nation was moved to this particular date. So we'll continue to monitor the red carpet, cross to our reporters, and give you all of that information as it does come through. You can see the youth lining the red carpet there as well. And this is, I think, one of the highlights of the event is allowing these young children to stand by and watch these individuals who run our country, who make the decisions, and perhaps hopefully inspire them to work and walk in the footsteps of their heroes that they're witnessing here this evening.
I mean, I sort of vaguely remember someone mentioning it this week. I think it was yesterday, where apparently we have the fourth most active youth in the world, which I think is a good thing. And it's occasions like these where where an effort at the very least is being made to involve young people that I think will lead to the kinds of or will begin to give young people something or things to aspire to, and to not sort of frown upon Parliament as something that only elders do. And coupled with all these young, politicians who are leading political parties in their own right, I think it can only bode well for our democracy.
Yeah, it certainly can, and it's wonderful to see them. In fact, there are around about 700 members of the public present here this evening. It's a few more than on an average opening of Parliament. They've allowed the members of public to come in and to witness this occasion, so it's a really wonderful thing to watch, and it's a joyous occasion, I think one could say. Even though this is the second opening of Parliament for the year. As you know, in an election year, you will have two of these. So we saw the President giving the State of the Nation address and the opening of Parliament in February. Then we had our general election. And once again, we find ourselves here at the sitting of the fifth Parliament, the democratically elected Parliament that will be taking place. Everybody having their photographs taken on the red carpet in front of the staircase. It is a memorable occasion, and it is a stunning moment for you to capture for your record books. And anybody who is here wants this photograph and wants to remember the occasion. So there you can see somebody getting their photo taken outside the staircase there as it leads into the National Assembly. Let's talk you through a little bit of the timings, just to put you into perspective. From 4 o'clock until about 5:30, that's just ended. We've seen the MPs walking up the carpet, including our cabinet ministers and their guests, and guests of Parliament, and the presidency arriving at Poort Huis entrance to the old building. That's where they're arriving now. That's what's on your screen. Then from about 5 o'clock until 5:45, you'll see the members of the judiciary, the provincial premiers, the speakers of the provincial legislatures, members of the executive committees, the executive mayors of Cape Town, and the heads of mission arriving in Government Avenue in the Company Gardens. And then from 5:30 to 6 o'clock, principal dignitaries arrive at the front entrance to the National Assembly building. And then at 25 minutes past 6 until around about 6:45, the processions from the Slave Lodge or the gates of Parliament leave in the following order. You'll first see all of the provincial premiers arriving, the speakers of the provincial legislatures, the judiciary, and then followed by the Deputy President, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament in the National Assembly, the Chairperson of the Parliament's NCOP, and then the President, accompanied by one of his spouses, will be there, as well as the Speaker of Parliament's National Assembly, Baleka Mbete.
In case some of you are wondering why there seems to be not as many people on what is traditionally the red carpet, that's also because from the National Council of Provinces, that hallway right through to the National Assembly, there is a passage there that has been opened. Remember, initially we were told that it was part of the wet plan alternative in the event there was to be rain today. But from what we can tell, there are people who are using that anyway. In other words, even though Cape Town is in fact dry,
exactly.
But they are using that.
Well, just a reminder here on the program today, Digital News will be streaming the Sona live broadcast on our news website. That's www.sabc.za/news, and the SABC News YouTube channel and GCIS will also screen this event live at various venues throughout the country. In fact, I saw a massive screen being erected just outside of Pali, where a lot of people will be able to watch this particular event.
Well, actually, right now in front of you, you're seeing some of the president's guards, which probably is an indication that it's getting closer to that time when we will be seeing him coming through. And on that note, a point to note perhaps is the fact that he will not be going through all those streets right through to Adderley. He will be dropped here in Parliament, and he is going to travel a possibly the shortest distance a president has traveled over the past 20 years into the National Assembly chamber, where he will be making that speech.
This is also the first time that we will be seeing our president in the past 10 days. As you know, he was hospitalized and booked off from his busy schedule for about 10 days and ordered to rest, not feeling so well. And Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has been fulfilling all of the appointments that the president did have, in particular speaking at the Youth Day celebrations and other events leading up to the State of the Nation address. But we have been told that the president will be here. He is fit and ready to deliver the State of the Nation address. So we do wish him well on this occasion, especially seeing that he hasn't been in good health up until this time. So it'll be good to see him as well on camera and capturing him as he does arrive here.
Everyone definitely looking forward to that moment, and perhaps more importantly, that speech. Because as we said earlier, he did say to all his ministers, he did say to us as South Africans that everyone must put shoulder to the wheel and speed up service delivery, warning that those who are failing our people will be removed.
There's our public protector, Thuli Madonsela, walking in, and she's wearing a beautiful long black gown this evening to the occasion, and she's no doubt, may I say, added to the stress of our president after her report coming out. But there she is, walking into Parliament, and she's going to be taking her seat to listen to what the president has to say for his plans moving forward.
Well, the president has already, of course, indicated that he will indeed respond to Parliament, before Parliament, and actually give them an update on what is happening with regard to that report. Speaker also saying this week that they will indeed be looking forward to his response as Parliament.
I think a lot of people have some anticipations about what the president is going to say, and I think one of the biggest things that South Africans are hoping the president will talk about is the economy. We heard Helen Ziller a little bit earlier, the leader of the opposition, talking about the state of our economic decline, and so she decided to dress modestly, and she was really hoping that the president would talk about this and also talk about the strike in the mining sector and talk about how it has in fact affected our economy. And I think a lot of people waiting with anticipation to see how the president is going to respond to that. Vuyo, I'm not sure if you've had any word or conversations with anybody if the president is in fact going to address that, because I think that possibly is the key issue tonight.
Well, no doubt about that. That's what the government has said that the president is going to talk a great deal about the economy, but the president having declared right at the beginning that the focus is going to be on the National Development Plan as the key plan that's on the table, that almost everyone seems to agree that is what is going to unite this nation, or the expectation, I should say, is that this nation will be able to unite behind that plan. Helen Zille saying there earlier that actually we've been waiting for implementation because we believe that this is a good document, this is a good plan. We believe that everyone should rally behind it, and of course making the point that the people who are in fact or don't seem to be agreeing with the government on that is in fact its own allies in COSATU and the South African Communist Party. Well, let's have a look now at the nomination and election of the new president after the recent election. So here's a bit of a flashback, shall I say.
The ANC delegated one of its veterans to deliver its nomination for the position of president.
I, Rosalia Mrutwa, am honored and privileged to, on behalf of the African National Congress and millions of South Africans, nominate Honorable Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma to the position of the President of the Republic of South Africa in the 5th term of this democratic government. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you.
The Honorable Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma has been nominated for the position of President of the Republic. Is the nomination seconded?
Honorable Speaker, esteemed Chief Justice, I, Ngosiake Amos Masondo, rise to second the motion as tabled by MP Story Murutwa to have Honorable J.G. Zuma elected as President of the Republic of South Africa. Thank you very much.
The Chief Justice had to first confirm with the nominee.
There is a signature here which is made out to be that of the nominee. I just need confirmation. Honorable Zuma, is this your signature? Do you accept the nomination?
Thank you, Chief Justice. It is indeed my signature. Thank you.
But the DA had some unfinished business that it wanted to address in the National Assembly chamber.
Honourable Chief Justice, I rise on a question of procedure in terms of Rule 8 for the rules of the first sitting of the National Assembly, on which I would like your ruling.
Rule 8.
Rule 8. That is correct, sir. First. We object to the nomination of Mr. Jacob Zuma. This nomination is irrational since his conduct during his previous term conflicted especially with Section 96 of the Constitution. In particular, he has not acted on the recommendations of at least 2 reports of the Public Protector, and he appointed a National Director of Public Prosecutions who was manifestly unsuitable and whose appointment was set aside by the Constitutional Court.
Point of order.
I request, Honourable Chief Justice, that you rule that Mr. Zuma is not a fit and proper person to be nominated as President.
On a point of order, Honourable Chief Justice, it would have done the Honourable Member well to read the Constitution before his frivolous motion, because this House is now mandated to elect a President from among the members of the National Assembly, which we are properly doing.
The The Chief Justice referred members to the Constitution on grounds of disqualification, noting that the DA's objection was too late.
The list of those designated to be sworn in or affirmed as members of the National Assembly, the NCOP, and provincial legislatures were presented to the Chief Justice by the IEC on the 10th of this month. Knowing what the constitutional requirements for eligibility for membership of the National Assembly is, it is from then until shortly before the oath of office or the administration or the affirmation was administered to the members that an objection of this nature ought to be raised. That not having been done, any one of the honorable members here is, in terms of Section 86 of the Constitution, and I go there, eligible for nomination and election to the position of president. Section 86(1) provides, at its first sitting after its election, and whenever necessary to fill a vacancy, the National Assembly must elect a woman or a man from among its members to be the president. Now, the Honorable Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma is a member of the National Assembly, having signed all the forms. I know that he's one of those who took an oath and not an office, I beg your pardon, and not a solemn affirmation, and is therefore eligible for election into the office of president according to the Constitution. So my ruling is therefore to dismiss the point raised without costs.
With that out of the way, it was time to check if there are other nominees for the position of president.
Are there other nominations? Well, it looks like Honorable Malema is signaling his availability. Is there any other nomination? There are no further nominations. Only one candidate has been nominated, namely the Honorable Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma. The nomination is in order and in terms of Item 5 of Part A of Schedule 3 of the Constitution. I accordingly declare the Honorable Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma duly elected President of the Republic of South Africa, and I have the honor of congratulating you on your election as president. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Wow, all the drama that unfolded, of course, during the nomination of President Jacob Zuma as the President of the Republic of South Africa, and not forgetting the Chief Justice's own, sense of humor.
Yeah, well, there you have it, and that leads us to today. The ceremonial part of this event is about to begin, and there you can see the National Ceremonial Band, followed by the Ceremonial Guard marching towards the parliamentary buildings. They'll take up a position in front of the National Assembly. Just to tell you that the band is under the command of Major Andrew Strugnile. So he's the man that's commanding over that. Now, while Major N.G. Tenga is leading the guard, so those are the two gentlemen. It'll also be Major Tenga who will be giving the command during the national salute at the National Assembly steps. Now, that'll happen once the President has arrived, and then you will see that salute taking place. The ceremonial guard will present the national salute in honor of the President as the Commander-in-Chief of the National Defense Force. Members of the various divisions of the SANDF, that is, of course, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Medical Health Service, are already in position along the route that the President's motorcade will follow up Adderley Street to Parliament.
Of course, that ceremonial part of this event will be starting, or in fact has indeed started, one of those in one of those rare occasions where, of course, you get all three arms of the state, the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive coming together in one place in front of the nation, beginning with this ceremony that starts all the way from Slave Lodge outside of the parliamentary precinct. A combination of both public participation and that formal state ceremony. Public participation part of this procession being very important because Parliament is really striving to make sure that it does demonstrate to South Africans that this institution is accessible to the people of this country, and it also encourages public participation in its workings. You will recall that whenever a piece of legislation is, of course, being drafted or crafted, the public is indeed does get invited, all stakeholders, NGOs, community-based organizations, individuals, pressure groups, everybody comes to this Parliament to have their say or their input, as people normally say it, into that piece of legislation. So they try to make sure that that is in fact broadened, or at the very least in the minds, hearts and minds of South Africans, that is being kept alive, that you are part of this Parliament, this is your Parliament.
And that, of course, introduced by our former President Nelson Mandela, this public participation component. Well, we're carrying on now with the visuals, the ceremonial guard. Here we go. They're on your screens right now, and you're seeing them walking up the, marching up the street and to the National Assembly. And this is also a beautiful sight to see, and all those members of the public that have gathered to witness this also enjoying the pomp and ceremony that makes up the opening of Parliament, which you are watching live right now on SABC News, and we will be with you all the way through the evening, throughout the speech, and giving you analysis as well afterwards. Now, the first part of the procession from the Slave Lodge to the gates of Parliament involves a military guard of honour from the entrance to the parliamentary precinct, and members of the South African public line that red carpet as you have been seeing the whole time. There is a junior guard of honour as well, a civil guard of honour, and 9 eminent persons line the route from the end of the old assembly wing. The procession becomes part of a formal state ceremony. So the ceremonial military guard of honour, that's what we're looking at, is walking up now, marching up in front of the new wing in which the National Assembly chamber is located, and the military band is there this year. The military band is set up right in front of the National Assembly, facing that beautiful statue of former President Nelson Mandela, and they'll play the national anthem as well as that 21-gun salute. There's also going to be an Air Force fly-past that'll take place when the President is standing by for that national salute. So there's a lot to look forward to here on the programme and during this very, very special occasion. You know, it is quite interesting to note for you that a lot earlier this morning we actually saw some of the most magnificent scenes of cleaning up the streets here in Cape Town. I even saw the guys standing by with leaf blowers, and they were blowing all the leaves off. It's something that's unprecedented. You have to actually see it. It's quite amazing how the streets are looked after at this time when you're going to see something like this happening. So blowing the leaves off the streets, that's become a common occurrence here, just ahead of the State of the Nation. I'm sure the residents loving this, actually, to see how their streets get cleaned up for this particular occasion. It really is something to be watching.
You know, I once aspired to be a choir conductor.
Oh, you did?
I did try.
What happened?
You know, at like church and at school. It kind of died away at some point. But
it's okay. That's why we have you here, sitting with us in the studio, commentating about it all. It's okay. It wasn't a bad career choice, I can tell you that much. Well, there's that red carpet. So let's talk to you about this rolling out of the red carpet. It was actually originally reserved for kings and queens and signified a welcome of great hospitality and ceremony. Over time, the red carpet was also used to welcome heads of foreign nations, a member of a reigning royal family, and a former head of state. So there you have it. So that's the history of the red carpet that you're seeing here, that's rolled out in all its glory for our VIP guests to walk up.
Oh, so some of the things, of course, some of the new blood that has just arrived in this parliament, I think is a bit elitist. But from that conversation that Parliament is going to have over everything from dress code to how members of Parliament should conduct themselves, hopefully some of those conversations will speak to just who we are and who we aspire to be, and actually interrogate these concepts perhaps a lot more elaborately, and I'm sure it can only be to the benefit of all South Africans. Conversations, that's what we are about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is indeed. If you've just tuned in, you are witnessing the parade up the street, where we've got all the different guards of honours walking up, and the ceremonial honour towards the National Assembly. Very shortly, we are going to start seeing the provincial premiers arriving, the judiciary arriving. We're going to see all of the VIPs making their way here, as well as the Deputy President of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, and then, of course, the arrival of our President, Jacob Zuma, who will, at 7 o'clock this evening, be delivering his 7th State of the Nation address. So that's something that everybody is looking forward to, anticipating a lot of what is going to be said. But I think what many people are expecting is that the economy is going to fall very, very firmly in the spotlight, and hoping that we will get some clarity from the President as to what way forward we're going to take to try and rectify that current situation we find ourselves in.
Well, of course, we will be bringing you all of that live here on SABC2 and Channel 404. The arrival of the Deputy President and his spouse, the arrival of the President, the arrival of the judiciary, the arrival of the premiers, all of that and more live. For now, though, we're going to take a quick ad break, but do stay with us.
ABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
United States President Barack Obama has expressed sadness over the shooting at a U.S. Army base in Fort Hood in Texas. A soldier opened fire on fellow service members at the military base, killing 3 people and wounding 16 others before committing suicide at the same post.
I want to just assure all of us that we are going to get to the bottom of exactly what.
very good evening to you and welcome to our special broadcast of the official opening of Parliament in Cape Town. My name is Leanne Manus and we are coming to you live from Stort Lane, where President Jacob Zuma is expected to arrive shortly and deliver his 7th State of the Nation address.
A very special warm welcome to SABC2 viewers who have just joined us. They may have missed, of course, the red carpet. They may have missed some of the ceremonial guard and all those other people who are responsible for creating all that sense of pomp and ceremony. But we will be bringing you live during this part of our broadcast the arrivals of the judiciary, of the provincial premiers. We'll be bringing you the arrival of the president and the deputy president and their spouses, all of that and more, and perhaps more importantly, that speech, the very speech itself that everyone, Leanne, is indeed looking forward to, with the ANC having gotten a renewed mandate. What's on top of their mind? That and more this evening here live on SABC2 and on Channel 404.
It's a beautiful evening here in the Mother City. As you can see, the streets lined with members of the public that are waiting for the arrival of the President, of our Deputy President of the country, and all of the other VIPs that Vuyo has just mentioned that should be making their way shortly into the National Assembly and taking their seats. Just to talk you through some of the arrivals that we managed to capture a bit earlier. Of course, we saw the leader of the opposition, Helen Zille. She arrived a little bit earlier on. We also saw Mmusi Maimane, still sticking to the DA. That's the parliamentary leader there. Then from the EFF, we saw Julius Malema arriving with the rest of his parliamentary leaders in Parliament from the EFF, dressed in their red overalls and looking very, very excited for their debut in Parliament as well.
Well, the person you just saw on your screen now is, of course, the former chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Mninwa Mahlangu.
Now, this, of course, being the 20th anniversary of the democratically elected Parliament, is being celebrated as a theme as well for this year's opening of Parliament. Now, you'll remember a bit earlier this year, I think it was in around about April, we saw a statue of Nelson Mandela unveiled, and he, of course, was the first democratically elected president here in South Africa, and that statue is going to play a very, very key role today because, you know, Vuyo, you find that it's right in front of that stage where the president stands along with the deputy president and their spouses and everybody just before the beginning where the national salute takes place and the national anthem is sung, and there is that statue of Madiba watching over it all. So it's going to play a very, very key and vital role that you'll be seeing shortly on your screens. The parliamentary precinct has also been coloured with pictures reflecting President Mandela's term of office from 1994 up until he retired in 1999. There's also posters as well, of course, reflecting the successors from President Nelson Mandela. We had our President Thabo Mbeki and, of course, our incumbent President, Jacob Zuma.
Well, that statue, of course, Leon, coming on the back of a lot of, maybe I should say, on and off conversations about the symbolism, you know, the sort of things that we see in and around important institutions of this democracy, of which Parliament is one, because there was a sense or a feeling that the previous symbols, including a lot of apartheid symbols, continued to dominate the landscape in and around such institutions as the union buildings, as a parliament here, both houses, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. Hence this move to actually have these statues and more, where now other people who were previously not represented do in fact get to feature. And a lot of people are still saying we still need to do as a country a lot more to actually celebrate our heroes and heroines and the people who have actually sacrificed a great deal to make sure that we enjoy the democracy that we're enjoying at the moment.
Indeed. indeed. All right, I hope you're enjoying the visuals that you're seeing live here in the streets of Cape Town, and we'll continue to bring them to you throughout the evening as we witness this, the opening of Parliament, the fifth sitting of our Parliament, the fifth democratic Parliament that we have had here in South Africa. So we're looking forward to hearing the President speaking at around about 7 o'clock. It's quite interesting to take a look at the VIP guest list of those guests that have been invited to attend the opening of Parliament. There's foreign dignitaries, diplomats, religious leaders, all of them having already arrived here to take their seats inside Parliament. Former President F.W. de Klerk is on the list of invited VIP guests. We're not sure if he's going to be attending. We haven't seen him arriving as yet, but he certainly was invited to be here. Former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe has also been invited. He has confirmed that he will be attending, so we hopefully will get a picture of the former president coming in. Now, these are recorded visuals of the action inside of Parliament, which is always nice to have a look and see. Lots of people getting ready. There's the IFP leader waiting patiently in his bow tie, Mangosuthu Buthelezi.
Yes, I did have a chat to him a little earlier. He was saying he's looking forward to his speech, and he was hoping that President Zuma will be bolder this time around with respect to education and unemployment. So yes, a lot of expectations from members of Parliament who want to make sure that our children get a better deal. Indeed. While some of us may not have gotten the best deal out of what has happened so far, our children certainly should.
Also on your screen was the leader of the EFF. There we go. With Julius Malema a bit earlier within Parliament. Well, there you have it. Is our former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe and his new wife on his arm. They're taking their way up the stairs to walk into the National Assembly. So we had said that he'd confirmed his attendance. We were waiting on his arrival, and there you go. Live on your screens is the arrival of our former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe. But of course, some other VIP guests that we're waiting the arrival of is our former President Thabo Mbeki and his wife Zanele Mbeki, who walked the formal Sono route 9 times as President and First Lady of this country. They're unfortunately not going to be attending today's opening, since they're still in mourning following the passing of Mum Apenet Mbeki, who was laid to rest over this past weekend. And you will remember that our Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa gave the eulogy and spoke at Mbeki's funeral that was held in Dutwa in the Eastern Cape. So they are not going to be here, and our thoughts and sympathies going out to the Mbeki family over this time. Right, well, let's take a look back at what happened earlier for our SABC2 viewers that may have missed the fashions of the evening. Well, there were some wonderful fashions that came up that red carpet, and let's play them over to you again. This is what the leader of the DA, Helen Zille, looked like on the red carpet.
Ma'am, you've decided to go for a quieter, simpler look for this opening of Parliament. Any particular reason?
Well, it's the second opening of Parliament this year, and I think it deserves a much more muted focus. I decided to go for this look. It's a winter look, and I bought this at a vintage shop in Hermanus. And I believe that in a state of economic decline as we currently are, it's best to be more modest and more focused.
Let's talk a bit more about those issues that you would want the President to address today. starting with the issue of the economic climate, but also social delivery programs that have been spoken about earlier in the year, but also at the inauguration. What would you like the President to focus on tonight?
I would like the President to tell us how we are going to implement the National Development Plan. That is what we have to do. We have to focus on the priority of the economy and not just give it rhetorical support. The President must make hard choices now and put the economy, not his alliance partners, first.
As we go into the fifth administration, but also the fifth parliament, Parliament has a big role to do oversight. As opposition parties, have you had time to sit and say, these are the issues we would like Parliament to do with this fifth parliament?
Yes, we've spent the entire weekend away focusing as the DA caucus on precisely those issues we will take up, those we will apply oversight on, the issues we will take up and debate on behalf of the nation, and the laws that we will present so that South Africa can continue and grow into a prosperous society with opportunities for all.
Well, ma'am, thank you very much. That's the leader of the DA and Premier of the Western Cape, Helen Zille.
Sanda Mbeche talking, of course, to the leader of the Democratic Alliance, but also Western Cape Premier, Helen Zille. Well, people are seeing now it's the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Lechisa Tsenoli, of course, welcoming the guests of honor to this tonight's sitting of both houses of Parliament, the National Assembly, as well as the National Council of Provinces. Chief Justice Mogoeng and his wife walking through those corridors.
Indeed, the new Chief Justice leading the judges for the first time at Parliament Street as well, a bit earlier, so that's quite a momentous occasion for him and the judges to be a part of and look forward to this new sitting of Parliament. So you do know that the minute this part of the evening gets underway, that it's very imminent that the President should be arriving. Probably in around about 10 minutes from now, we should see the arrival of the President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, here at Parliament. Currently, his motorcade, I imagine, making its way down that route, that very short route due to roadworks that are taking place. So, as we mentioned a bit earlier, this is probably the shortest ever route that a president has taken for Parliament. Yeah, indeed. Over the past 20 years, the shortest route that's happening due to the construction on the road. So, perhaps the president happy about this one. He can get here faster. Well, as we say, some of this fashion has been incredible here. We saw a lady a bit earlier with the tattoo of the map of Africa on her back. But that was on the one side of the scale. On the other side of the scale, we've seen some unbelievably traditional outfits and some beautiful traditional outfits. And of course, leave it to the Mandela family to bring out those traditional outfits and wear something very, very much so from the Eastern Cape. But here is what Mandla Mandela and his partner were wearing and what they had to say about it.
Again, looking stunning this year. Somebody needs to help us understand, where do you get these traditional outfits done every Sona?
Well, they are inspired out of our community, Mvezo Komkhulu, knowing that it's my grandfather's birthplace and it's where the roots of the Mandela chieftaincy are located. And every time when we come to the red carpet, we try and capture most what comes out of our village and ensure that we fly the flag high of our birthplace and where we come from. But this year we've had the assistance of Bongiwe Walaza, who contributed in ensuring that we look stunning on the red carpet. So applause goes to her.
Ma'am, give us an idea. What was there a discussion on what you'd want your outfit to look like? Because it's absolutely stunning with great detail.
Thank you. Not really. Hey, this year she just wanted to try something a bit modern but also cultural. So it's just her creation.
I'm going to ask you to quickly turn around for us, so that we can take all of this outfit in, please. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Modern, traditional, is it something like that? I don't know.
Looked beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Loved those outfits. It's quite interesting to see that no walking up the red carpet this time for our dignitaries. We've seen them being dropped right outside the stairs this time and walking into the building. Well, there's our motorcade coming down as well. But usually they're dropped at the bottom of the carpet and then walk up.
And they walk their way up.
Yeah,
it's been different. This time around, as we said earlier, I mean, some of the people walk through the gates and then go straight to the National Council of Provinces side, and then walk through the passage, that sort of the hallway that is inside the precinct instead of that red carpet outside.
Yes.
So it is indeed a bit confusing. But also, usually you get sort of the Chief Justice together with the heads of the various provincial courts sort of coming through in their robes. And it is so the Chief Justice in suit.
Arriving up the stairs.
With his wife.
Yeah.
So it's quite, there's some changes there.
It'll be interesting to see if the president actually walks up the red carpet or has exactly the same treatment, dropped outside the stairs and walks up. But I think obviously that's probably what is being done this evening. It's also quite different that the opening of Parliament happening in winter normally happens on a balmy summer's evening here in the Cape. So a little bit of a chill in the air tonight. So perhaps this is to respect our guests, get them into Parliament as early and as quickly as possible. So it's
partly responsible for the changes we are seeing. But one thing we've been assured is not going to change, though. That's according to those in the know. It is the significance of the speech that will be made tonight. We've been assured that he is going to speak to the nation about all the important things that he needs to talk about, rallying the nation behind him and his government about all the things that we should be expecting the ANC-led government to do over the next 5 years.
Well, we're finding that this year is not really only about the fashion, and as much as we were capturing the guests arriving, having a look at their dresses and the fashions that are here on display at the State of the Nation and the opening of Parliament, there's also some serious issues on the agenda. Togo Dodiza talks us through what those issues actually are.
And just in terms of the fifth Democratic Parliament, what is it that the work of the 400 members will focus on after the President's speech this evening?
As you know, that the responsibility of Parliament is actually lawmaking, but also the oversight to the executive, and also encouraging society to have a voice in expressing what their views are. And I think in this coming fifth Parliament, we expect no less that there will be increased participation of our people with the members of Parliament in their constituencies, but also in making sure that they bring their representations where necessary on issues of regulations and legislation, but also on matters of policy and strategy. Obviously, Parliament's role is to also ensure that our government does meet the objectives that it has set itself for, and therefore in terms of our oversight we would look at how far in terms of the commitments that are made we're able to change the lives of our people. So we have a responsibility to make sure that the legislation that we promulgate or the legislation that we produce in this Parliament enable the executive to do its work.
And there's also a lot of focus this evening on what exactly President Jacob Zuma will be talking about when it comes to the matters of the economy. Surely this will be one of the big talking points this evening as well.
Yes, indeed. You would recall that the ANC's manifesto itself has put a lot of emphasis on matters of the economy, but also on issues of youth unemployment and how we could create the possibility for employment, and how we can make our economy to be inclusive while it grows at the same time, and also how the broad-based black economic empowerment can indeed encompass more people than it is. What is also remarkable is the focus in terms of government's focus on small and medium enterprises, which we have seen through the setting up of a new ministry that is going to focus on small and medium enterprises, which in my view indicates that the economy discussion or discourse in our country is not only looking at the large private sector, it's also looking at how you could mobilize your small and medium enterprises to be the anchor of our economy as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Toko Didiza.
Well, Toko Didiza, I was quite impressed, I must say. I did have a short interview with the newly appointed Minister of Small Business, Lindiwe Zulu. Very energetic, you know, lots of passion. And, of course, I mean, she is a doer who, as most people will know, sort of end the wrath of one president.
Yeah.
Precisely because she never shies away from doing what she believes is what ought to be done. So one neighboring president who never really took kindly to her energy and some of the things she said. And that president shall remain nameless, but he did, of course, get a warm, probably the loudest round of applause at the inauguration of President Zuma a couple of weeks ago.
We certainly do remember that. Well, this is the live coverage of the opening of Parliament here on Channel 404 and on SABC2. A very warm welcome to you if you've just tuned in. It's quite an interesting thing to watch the State of the Nation and this procession in the dark of the night, because usually in Cape Town, as you know, the sun sets a lot later than it does in the rest of the country, and we usually watch this in the daytime, and well, not in the daytime, in the evening, but it's still light. But tonight we're seeing this in the evening, so it's quite a different feel, if one could describe it that way, but still very, very majestic as we see all the different guards of honor walking through the streets waiting for the arrival of our president here at the National Assembly.
Let's, while you're watching the guards,
see another VIP has arrived here just behind us, outside the stairs into the National Assembly, behind the bus there of former President Nelson Mandela, walking up the red carpet there.
Of course, watching those live pictures of the guards and the brand as they move up that red carpet, usually used by members of the judiciary, premiers, and so on. Let's take a quick ad break. But do not go away. Stay with us, because this broadcast continues after this ad break.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Welcome back to watching this special broadcast of the opening of Parliament, the State of the Nation address. This, of course, is the fifth Parliament, the fifth establishment of the fifth democratic Parliament, and this will be the seventh State of the Nation address that our President Jacob Zuma will be delivering in just over a half an hour from now at exactly 7 o'clock.
Well, the speakers of all 9 provincial legislatures, you will of course note that women are in the great majority, and that was because a decision was taken to address the wrong that had occurred when out of the 8 premiers that the ANC won, only one province has a woman premier. The deal then was that where you have men as premiers, you should have the speaker as a woman. Hence, you have 7 women speakers and 2 men. A woman premiers, the other one, of course, being the Western Cape Premier, Helen Zille, who, as we all know, is the leader of the Democratic Alliance.
Well, here are our premiers now walking up the red carpet. These are the premiers of the provinces. Let's talk you through them. We've got the Eastern Cape Premier, Phumulo Masualle, who is in that delegation. The Free State Premier, Ace Magashule. Gauteng's Premier, David Makura. The KwaZulu-Natal Premier, Sizwe Mkunu. We've also got the Limpopo Premier, Stanley Matabata. Mpumalanga's Premier, David Mabuza. The Northern Cape, Sylvia Lucas. The Northwest Premier, Supra Mahumapelo. And then, of course, the last one, and in that procession, is the Western Cape Premier, Helen Zille.
Premier of the Northwest, looking a bit energetic. They're doing some jives and little dances.
Indeed. Walking up that red carpet, enjoying the moment, the flashing of those camera bulbs, the singing of those that have lined the red carpet, and that ceremonial guard welcoming them in. So there we go. Now we're seeing this, the official procession taking place. We've just seen the speakers, and those are the premiers that have just arrived here on the red carpet. Welcoming all of the premiers and the speakers of those provincial legislatures into the National Assembly. And of course, she's now being led down so that she can walk this procession as well. Well, they're walking up the carpet now is the judiciary, and they're making their way, dressed in their beautiful garments, indicative of the judicial system here in South Africa, and they're taking their moment to also enjoy this particular walk up the red carpet to all that pomp and ceremony and beautiful music that's supplied in the background. And they're all being led by our new Chief Justice.
Wow, very much his own man, of course. A couple of weeks ago, he had to explain himself when after he caused a stay by suggesting that religion should be allowed to influence the laws that govern our lives, especially around such ills as adultery, theft, lying, and, as he called it, fornication. Well, he was unapologetic, must be said, even on that occasion. He stood his ground saying these are issues that he felt needed to be highlighted, bearing in mind, of course, that we are a pluralistic society. But, of course, saying even though he's a devout Christian and he believes in the values that he espouses, he won't do that at the expense of the Constitution, which was to some extent, I guess, assuring, but for some people not assuring enough. But we'll see what the future holds, whether in fact, of course, as a nation we'll continue to debate the issues that the Chief Justice raised.
See the Presidential Guard there standing, waiting the arrival of the President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, standing in honor, lining the streets and the red carpet as you make your way up here to the National Assembly. Of course, before the President arrives, you certainly are going to see the arrival of the Deputy President of South Africa as well. Lovely shot of our Chief Justice with the rest of the judiciary making their way up the stairs, across that stage that's been erected where you'll see the President standing, where the 21-gun salute will take place before he enters into Parliament. This music at the back is courtesy of the Air Force Band under the baton of Lieutenant Commander Mateus Pienaar. And they're picking things up here. You can feel the mood in Parliament. Very joyful. Very, very nice. Well, there you go. That's what's happening inside. They're all standing. Yeah, it's from Toto. It is indeed. Well, there you go. Everybody standing up to welcome the judiciary into Parliament, and these are all the guests and the members of Parliament that are seated and they're awaiting arrivals. These are live visuals that you are watching here on SABC. I hope that you are enjoying them. One thing, I think the organisers are exceptionally happy that this song is not indicative of the weather. I think they were very worried it was going to be raining. So there are no rains in Africa, as the song says tonight. It is a beautiful, clear evening, a bit of a chill in the air. but that's certainly not putting a damper on anything. In fact, it's a beautiful atmosphere here outside Parliament this evening. If you're a bit of a soccer fan there, Vuya, I can tell you that Algeria have just scored a goal. So I might as well also inform our viewers, if you're interested in the World Cup, Africa scoring its first goal in the World Cup. Algeria 1-0 versus Belgium. So there you go. So that's a nice celebration for the continent as well as we watch this very prestigious occasion taking place here.
Well, let's hope they go on to win, because Africa has not been doing well in this tournament, especially if you watched last night.
Yes. Indeed, Nigeria, unfortunately, the first draw of the tournament, but hopefully this will turn the tide for Africa. Well, there's that flame of remembrance, and this is in solidarity of all that have lost their lives throughout the time, fighting for the country, fighting for this freedom that we here as South Africans celebrate after our 20 years of democracy. And it's a beautiful visual that you're able to see. You know, it's one thing seeing it in the day, but at night I think that this really echoes and sends that magnificent chill up your spine, just to remember those beautiful people that lost their lives for us. The gun salute actually will come from there, that 21 gun salute. That'll happen as the president does arrive, and the deputy president in honor of him. So that's the area that gun salute will take place. That's the motorcade now of the Deputy President, who's making his way to the parliamentary precinct, and we should see him any minute now walking up that red carpet together with his wife, and it should be quite a wonderful feeling for him, as this is the first time that he's walking up this carpet as the Deputy President of South Africa, and his wife Tshepo Motsepe accompanying him as well. So this is a momentous occasion for him, and an occasion that I'm wondering if he's ever sort of dreamt that he would be in his capacity as the Deputy President of the country and of the ruling party being fulfilled. So this is perhaps a dream for him being realized.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, and the Deputy President has been having quite a hectic schedule, having to stand in for the President on so many occasions, including yesterday, as you pointed out earlier. I mean, he had to address yesterday's rally, the formal or the official June 16 rally in Kimberley. He also had to, as you said earlier, Leanne, deliver the eulogy at the funeral of former President Thabo Mbeki's mother, Epanet Mbeki. So he has been, and I understand tomorrow and on Thursday, he will also be standing in for the Deputy President.
Yeah, indeed. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be having the usual TNA breakfast that we always do have. That'll be live on Morning Live from 6 o'clock in the morning, and you'll be able to watch that and get the diagnosis from the State of the Nation address. But the President Jacob Zuma will not be officiating over that. That instead will be the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, who will be doing that breakfast for us tomorrow morning. Well, they're making their way, should be getting out of their vehicles any moment from now, getting into the building. Well, that's the car that's now going to be dropping our Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa off, as well as his wife, who is accompanying him, who is in the car as well. And that's a lovely moment for them, and it certainly is going to be something that we're looking forward to seeing his wife Tshepo Motsepe accompanying our Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa on the opening of Parliament this evening. So our Deputy President was appointed by Jacob Zuma on the 25th of May this year and was sworn into office by our Chief Justice Mogoeng the following day. And following his appointment, Ramaphosa was made the leader of government business in the National Assembly as well. There's that picture that we've been waiting for, the arrival of our Deputy President here in South Africa, waving to the crowds as he steps out of that vehicle, accompanied by his wife by his side, and that's Dr. Tshepo Motsepe Ramaphosa, and she, of course, is the eldest sister of Patrice Motsepe. this is now the moment we have certainly been waiting for, the arrival of the President of South Africa. So you can, on your screens, watch the motorcade of our President Jacob Zuma making its way to the parliamentary precinct. There is the President of South Africa, Mr. Jacob Zuma, arriving at Parliament. let's talk you through who is accompanying the president up the red carpet. He has been received by the Speaker of the House, Baleka Mbete, and the Deputy as well, Letshisi Tonole. That's who is accompanying the president up the carpet. The NCOP Chair, Thandi Modise, and the Deputy, as well as a praise singer that will be there for him. And those are the people that will be walking alongside President Jacob Zuma. President standing by now for the 21-gun salute, as well as a flyover by the Air Force and the singing of the national anthem.
eNingizimu Afrika ithumathumanele yathume esizweni yathi yabahlekisa kanti yabanutha ngehlekisa kwakancamalanga sinyalela kanabogcina kumasiko bakamsholosi inkosi lakho bayagathula iselithole bakhuta bakubabata babona imhlolo kanti abakakubude elangeni inganti insabathe enkandlathi yakusibekela liguqela kana bobhikiza liphikelele phambili lapho liyahola sive senkosi khona wamemeta khonkolose kwevakala ingani bomabhida babalidondolo lidondolo lelaweta lwamsholosi inkuzi yakithi lemdiyothu yaseningizimu Afrika inkuzi lekase kwasathi ibovulate emabhunu jamluthi logwedla kukhahlele ingani wayincoba iRobben Island wasegalwe ephuka eSwatini kulamswati nawe mashele wasuyayiva lenkuzi yakithi memeta wayikhoselisa nawe Lusaka umncinyana ingani lomfana lo wathambo namvulele emasango nase uyakhula ke umkhonto wesizwe mhlanzela langa lenyamatane lithi liyawushona ube ushone nalo ingani nemarashi yavile ebuhlabani bakho phunyuka bemphethe esandleni malwa binzile njengendlala mabhoce mafuthi inyama ungakayidli tinsanzane nebafelo kathi bavuma wena talukathi nemakhehla bathi msholozi ngewethu base bakunyunzela bashaya phansi kwabhunya luthulu base bakudlela umona kanti bagcobise amafutha wase uyanyamatela msholozi yadlodlobala uya Union Building impela uqinisile msholozi na uthi indlela endlela lesihambako waqhoqhobala kancane wahola khongolose wathi uyawuba imvi emhlatshelo watinikela wathi simakathe utakuphendulela nembhala namhla umhlaba uhlonipha wena ncamalala sebangangawe ke msholozi sebangangawe ncamalala balinzele wena mpangazitha balinzele wena matomela kalugaju phefemulela lesive sakho msholozi bakulinzele emakhana totonke tingalo telive lakho bayethe msholozi ncamalala
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer and meditation. Please be seated. Honorable members, before we proceed with today's business, I wish to announce that Mr. Michael Coetzee, the Secretary to Parliament, passed away on Friday, the 13th of June. Honorable members will have noticed that there's a vacant seat where Michael Coetzee would have been sitting. I would like us to observe a moment of silence for the late Secretary to Parliament. Please be seated. Honorable members, the President has called this joint sitting of National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 842D of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read with Joint Rule 71A, in order to deliver his State of the Nation address to Parliament. I now call on the Honorable the President to address the sitting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Deputy President of the Republic, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic, and all esteemed members of the judiciary, honorable ministers and deputy ministers, premiers and speakers of provincial legislatures, chairperson of the NCOP, chairperson of SALGA, and all local government leadership, chairperson of the National House of Traditional Leaders, the heads of Chapter 9 institutions, leaders from all sectors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, honorable members, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. Good evening, Sanibonani, Molweni, Riperil, Dumelang, Limatekwa. Honorable members, Fernand. Honorable members of the House, it is a great pleasure to address you on this first State of the Nation address of the 5th Democratic Administration. Let me begin by extending our deepest condolences on the sad passing of the Secretary of Parliament, Mr. Michael Coetzee. His contribution to the struggle for liberation and freedom and democracy will never be forgotten. Honorable members, last week we also lost our mother, Mama Painet Mbeki. Her guidance and wisdom will be sorely missed. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the Mbeki family. Our hearts go out to the families of SA and DF members who died in a tragic helicopter crash in Mpumalanga today during a training camp. We wish the injured a speedy recovery. Compatriots, we have recently emerged from a successful national general election held on the 7th of May. We look forward to working with all the parties in Parliament as we move South Africa forward. In the February State of the Nation address, I related the good story of 20 years of freedom and democracy. We stated that South Africa is a much better place to live in than it was in 1994, and that the lives of millions of our people have improved. However, as a national development plan and the presidency's 20-year review highlight, the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment continues to affect the lives of many people. As we enter the second phase of our transition from apartheid to a national democratic society, we have to embark on a radical socio-economic transformation to push back the triple challenges. Change will not come about without some far-reaching interventions. We have put in place a program of action based on the ANC's manifesto and the National Development Plan. The economy takes center stage in this program. It remains our strong belief that the most effective weapon in the campaign against poverty is the creation of decent work, and that creating work requires faster economic growth. We have set a strong target of 5% by 2019. To achieve this, we will embark on various measures and interventions to jumpstart the economy. We have set this target during a difficult period. The economy has grown below its potential over the last 3 years, and many households are going through difficulties. The slow growth has been caused in part by the global economic slowdown, and secondly, by domestic conditions such as the prolonged and at times violent strikes, and also the shortage of energy. Given the impact of the unattainable labor relations environment on our economy, it is critical for social partners to meet and deliberate on the violent nature of our strikes and duration. The social partners will also need to deliberate on wage inequality. On our side, as government, we will, during this term, investigate the possibility of a national minimum wage as one of the key mechanisms to reduce the income inequalities. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will convene a social partners dialogue within the ambit of NADLAC. Secondly, government will play its part in the implementation of the landmark framework agreement for a sustainable mining industry entered into by labor, business, and government last year under the leadership of former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe. The process will now be led by the President. We will implement the undertaking to build housing and other services to revitalize mining towns as part of the October 2012 agreement between business, government, and labor. The focus is the mining areas of Motlosana, Emalahleni, Sekhukhune, Lephalale, West Rand, and Majabe. An inter-ministerial committee on the revitalization of distressed mining communities has been established under the leadership of the minister in the presidency responsible for planning, performance, monitoring, and evaluation, Mr. Jeff Radebe. The members of the committee include the ministers of mineral resources, water and sanitation, trade and industry, social development, labor, human settlements, health, economic development, and finance. To further promote improved living conditions for mine workers, government is monitoring the compliance of mining companies with mining charter targets relating to improving the living conditions of workers. Companies are expected to convert or upgrade hostels into family units, attain the occupancy rate of 1 person per room, and also facilitate home ownership options for mine workers. We urge companies to meet the 2014 deadline for these targets and extend this right to dignity to mine workers. Honorable members, distinguished guests, the low level of investments is a key constraint to economic growth. We are determined to work with the private sector to remove obstacles to investment. We would like to see the private sector showing as much confidence in the economy as the public sector. We will continue to engage business in promoting inclusive growth and to build a more prosperous society. In this regard, I will soon convene a meeting of the Presidential Business Working Group After the last meeting of the working group last year, 6 work streams were established, and these have been discussing solutions to various obstacles to doing business in South Africa. These issues were also raised by owners and CEOs of major companies that I hosted in 3 separate intensive working sessions at the Mahlambandlovu residence in November and December last year. The next meeting of the working group will take forward the partnership for inclusive growth and sustainable development. Fellow South Africans, we need to respond decisively to the country's energy constraints in order to create a conducive environment for growth. A successful electrification program, which has changed the lives of many households, was achieved by tapping into artificial electricity reserves, which had not been designed to cater for mass energy distribution. This situation calls for a radical transformation of the energy sector to develop a sustainable energy mix that comprises coal, solar, wind, hydro, gas, and nuclear energy. The transformation will require structural changes in the manner in which government departments, affected state-owned companies, and the industry as a whole address the energy challenges. The energy plan also calls for the injection of capital and human resources into the energy sector. We will also need to identify innovative approaches to fast-track procurement and delivery by government in the energy sector. To prepare the institutional capacity, we are in the process of converting the National Nuclear and Energy Executive Coordinating Committee of Cabinet into the Energy Security Cabinet Subcommittee. The subcommittee will be responsible for the oversight, coordination, and direction of activities for the energy sector. The subcommittee will also ensure that Eskom receives the support it requires to fulfill its mandate, and that it remains focused on achieving its goals and targets. To achieve our energy security goals, state-owned enterprises involved in the energy sector, such as Eskom, South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, and the Central Energy Fund, will have to adapt to the redefined roles to achieve these objectives. Work needs to be done at a technical level on all forms of energy, especially nuclear energy and shale gas with regards to funding, safety, exploitation, and local manufacture of components. Nuclear has the possibility of generating well over 9,000 megawatts, while shale gas is recognized as a game changer for our economy. We will pursue the shale gas option within the framework of our good environmental laws. There are also some urgent activities that we are engaging in the short term. Progress at Medupi Power Station construction site will be accelerated. Plans of the financing of the next large coal-fired power station, Coal 3, will be speeded up so that the procurement process can commence. We will also continue the fourth window of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producers Program to take advantage of wind, solar, biomass, and other technologies that increase the opportunity for rural development. Honorable Speaker and Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, we are also looking beyond our borders for energy security. In October last year, we signed the Grand Inga Hydropower Project, a treaty with the government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This massive and strategic project has the potential to generate 40,000 megawatts of hydroelectricity. Our country will benefit enormously from this milestone project. To prepare for the implementation of the energy plan, we need to finalize the legislation that relates to the restructuring of the energy industry as envisaged by the Independent System Market Operator Bill, the Integrated Resource Plan, and other policies affecting the energy sector. Honorable members, distinguished guests, we are a nation at work. In addition to our major energy security interventions, we will continue to implement the successful National Infrastructure Plan under the supervision of the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission throughout the country. During the past 5 years, we invested about 1 trillion rand in new infrastructure to provide water, energy, transport, sanitation, schools and clinics, and internet connections to our people. Over the next 3 years, we will spend 847 billion rand on the infrastructure, and several projects are to be started or completed. The construction of Mzimvubu Dam in the Eastern Cape will continue, and also the raising of the wall of Clan William Dam in the Western Cape. During the next 5 years, the bulk of the construction work on phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project will be completed. In the next 5 years, we will finish building more than 60 meerkat dishes and start building the first 100 square kilometer array dish antennas. We'll expand, modernize, and increase the affordability of information and communications infrastructure and electronic communication services, including broadband and digital broadcasting. Cabinet adopted South Africa Connect, our broadband policy and strategy, in December last year to take this mission forward. We'll continue with various other infrastructure projects that will change the living conditions of our people and boost economic growth. Compatriots, our radical social economic transformation program will be taken further with the implementation of the Industrial Policy Action Plan. We'll promote local procurement and increase domestic production by having the state buy 25% of goods and services from South African producers. We will utilize the renewable energy sector, the manufacturing of buses, transports, 50 billion rand locomotive contracts, and PRASA and PRASA's passenger rail projects, among others, to promote local content and boost growth. We will also, over the next 5 years, promote regional economic development and industrialization through the creation of special economic zones around the country. We'll continue to support, through incentives, the competitiveness of the auto, clothing, leather, footwear, and textile industries, which are labor-intensive. Honorable members, despite tough global trading conditions in its traditional markets, South Africa's tourism sector continued to grow, continued to show positive growth in 2013, reaching a record high of 9.6 million international tourist arrivals. People love our country and continue to visit South Africa. we have set a target to increase the number of foreign visitor arrivals to more than 15 million annually by 2017. We are also looking at increasing the contribution of tourism to the country's revenue to more than 125 billion rand by 2017. Over the next 5 years, we will prioritize support to small business as well as township and informal sector businesses. In particular, thus using the SMME development program to boost broad-based Black economic empowerment. We will sharpen the implementation of the amended Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act and the Employment Equity Act in order to transform the ownership, management, and control of the economy. We'll promote more employee and community share ownership schemes and boost the participation of Black entrepreneurs in the reindustrialization of the economy. Compatriots, the total assets of our development finance institutions amount to some 230 billion rand. However, their impact on development is not sufficiently broad-based, and their investment programs are not well coordinated. The institutions will be repositioned in the next 5 years to become real engines of socio-economic development. In the same vein, Postbank will be supported so that it can play a leading role in the expansion of banking services to the poor and the working class. Honorable members, distinguished guests, youth employment will be prioritized in our economic transformation program. Government will introduce further measures to speed up the employment of young people, consistent with the Youth Employment Accord. We will expand the number of internship positions in the public sector, with every government, department, and public entity being required to take on interns for experience and training. The private sector has responded positively to the introduction of the employment tax incentives. In only 5 months, there are 133,000 employees who have benefited and 11,000 employers who have participated in the incentive scheme. The majority has been employed in wholesale and retail trade, manufacturing, and finance sectors. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson, government has since 2004 run the successful expanded public works program, which provides work opportunities and training for the unemployed. The new phase will provide 6 million work opportunities by 2019. We are building on the success of the past 5 years. We created around 4 million work opportunities in the past 5 years. The expanded public works program, environmental initiatives such as working on waste, working on wetland, working for water, working on fire, and the Environmental Youth Services Program will also be upscaled up to 2019 in support of youth development. In addition, the local government-based community work program will be expanded to provide 1 million work opportunities by the end of 2019. Compatriots, we have identified agriculture as a key job driver. Our target is for the agricultural sector to create 1 million jobs by 2030. Government will provide comprehensive support to smallholder farmers by speeding up land reform and providing technical, infrastructural, and financial support. Support will be provided to communities as well to engage in food production and subsistence farming to promote food security in line with the FESA food production program. We will accelerate the settlement of remaining land claims submitted before the cutoff date of 1998. We will also reopen the period for the lodgement of claims for the restitution of land for a period of 5 years and codify the exceptions to the 1913 cutoff date for the descendants of the Khoi and San. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson, Sub-Saharan Africa is increasingly becoming a more important trade partner for our country. We are encouraged that South African investments in the continent increased from 5.5 billion rand in 2002 to 32.3 billion rand in 2013. Our exports into the continent are also increasing each year, having been at 28.5%, up from 22.6% in 2002. South Africa will continue to champion broader regional integration through the Southern African Customs Union, SADC, and the envisaged tripartite free trade area that blends Eastern and Southern Africa. Fellow South Africans, we would like our people's experience of local government to be a pleasant one. We have listened to the complaints and proposals of South Africans over the past 5 years relating to the performance of municipalities. I would like to share with you now our plan of action to revitalize local government. Our municipalities are built on a firm foundation built over the last 20 years of democracy. We have evaluated all our municipalities. We have inspected their financial management, how they work within legislative processes, as well as their ability to roll out projects and to address capacity constraints. We have also looked at how they respond to service delivery protests. There have been many successes in many municipalities. However, we face a number of challenges in others. We are pleased that 11 municipalities stand out for consistent good performance in audits, expenditure on municipal infrastructure grants, and service delivery. The 11 municipalities are the following: Kangala District Municipality, Taitatu District Municipality, Zululand District Municipality, Mzinyathi District Municipality, Ilembe District Municipality, Knysna Local Municipality, the West Coast District Municipality, Mazikama Local Municipality, Mossel Bay Local Municipality, Breed Valley Local Municipality, and Steve Tshwete Local Municipality. We congratulate municipalities for this performance. A comprehensive assessment of various municipalities has indicated where they need support. We will provide assistance to the following municipalities, among others: in Matoleni District Municipality in the Eastern Cape, Our Development Bank of Southern Africa has approved funding to develop infrastructure. Numerous projects, mainly in water and sanitation, will be started, and the objective is to complete them over the next 12 months. Umzinyathi District Municipality, KwaZulu-Natal, funding will be provided to develop infrastructure projects covering mainly the electrification of households. Local municipalities to be serviced include Msinga, Umvoti, and Ngutu. In Alfred Nzo District Municipality in the Eastern Cape, funding will be provided for infrastructure development projects covering water provision, sanitation, and electrification. Local municipalities involved include Bizana and in Tabankulu, catering for a population of about 1 million people. We will support Lukaji local municipality to reorganize its administration and implement support plans for the provision of water and electricity. We will assist OR Tambo District Municipality to stabilize the administration and organizational structure and fast-track the implementation of the presidential intervention plans. In Mpashe local municipality, we will implement waste management plans and address groundwater contamination issues. At Ngaka, Modiri, Molewa District Municipality in the Northwest, national government will provide support and work with the Development Bank of Southern Africa to resolve financing for water and sanitation infrastructure. We will support the city of Johannesburg in Gauteng to resolve problems with the billing system. We will support Makaka local municipality in the Free State with the eradication of the bucket system and open toilet challenges. Meanwhile, work is underway to eradicate the bucket system throughout the country. This will also be the priority of the Interministerial Task Team on Service Delivery that I have established. The team is led by Minister Pravin Gordhan. The team comprises the Ministers of Planning, Performance Monitoring and Evaluation in the Presidency, Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, Transport, Home Affairs, Public Enterprises, Energy, Rural Development and Land Reform, Health and Basic Education. Honorable Speaker and Honorable Chairperson, a key focus area in local government in the next 5 years will be how we respond to the reality of rapid urbanization in our country. South Africa is becoming an urban country. By 2011, almost 63% of our population were residing in towns and cities, and this trend is expected to continue over the coming decade. Our government's integrated urban development framework will be finalized by 30th July 2014. It will set out a policy framework on how the urban system in South Africa can be reorganized so that cities and towns can become inclusive, resource efficient, and good places to live in over the next 20 to 30 years. Together, let us move local government forward. Compatriots, over the past 20 years, we have steadily expanded support for marginalized and vulnerable households, from investments in housing, extensions to our social grants programs, and improve access to education and primary health care. Over the period ahead, poverty reduction will continue to be reinforced. We will continue to invest in education and skills development, as that is the key to economic growth and development. We need engineers, electricians, plumbers, doctors, teachers, and many other professionals to build our country's economy. Education, therefore, remains an apex priority for this government. We will continue to promote universal access to education by ensuring that all children between ages 7 and 15 are in school. We will increase the number of grade 12 learners who can gain entrance to university, moving from 172,000 in 2013 to 250,000 in 2019. We opened at least one new school a week in the Eastern Cape last year. And will continue to eradicate mud schools and other inappropriate structures. The number of young people in universities and colleges has increased over the years. Contractors will move on site in September to build new universities in the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga. By January next year, the first intake of medical students will be enrolled at the new medical university in Limpopo. In addition, 12 training and vocational education colleges will be built to expand the technical skills mix in the country. Compatriots, together we must continue to fight drugs and substance abuse in our schools and communities. We will also prioritize safety in schools, scholar transport, and child health. In the area of health, we will work harder to increase life expectancy at birth from 60 years in 2012 to 63 years in 2019. The campaign to reduce child and maternal mortality ratios will continue. This will require the implementation of the National Health Insurance and the improvement of the quality of care in the public sector. We will build on the successes of our HIV and AIDS treatment and support program by expanding our mass HIV prevention communication campaigns. Compatriots, we will take forward the advances we have made in promoting women's empowerment and development. The Minister in the Presidency responsible for women's development, Ms. Susan Shabangu, will work with other government departments, agencies, the private sector, and non-governmental organizations to promote women's socio-economic empowerment, development, and human rights. To further consolidate our democratic gains, we will continue to advance and improve the lives of people with disabilities over the next 5 years. We will work with the disability sector to identify key areas in which we should fulfill South Africa's role as signatory to the UN Convention on the rights of persons with disabilities and its optional protocols. Another key intervention this term will be to finalize the National Disability Rights Policy, which includes the National Disability Rights Framework. The policy and the framework will guide government action to promote a more inclusive society and to promote the environment of people with disabilities, involvement of people with disabilities in decision-making processes. Fellow South Africans, some progress has been made over the past 5 years in reducing the levels of serious crime, such as murders, aggravated robberies, crimes against women, children, and other vulnerable groups, but they remain unacceptably high. We will work to further reduce levels of crime. The Special Investigating Unit, the Anti-Corruption Task Team, the Asset Forfeiture Unit, and the Hawks have made notable progress in our quest to combat corruption in society broadly and in the public sector. This work will continue in the next 5 years. Weaknesses in the procurement, management, and operations systems that undermine the efficiency and effectiveness of government will be addressed. One of the key steps, which is already underway, is to centralize procurement under the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer in the National Treasury. We have begun piloting this new approach with the centralized procurement of schools' furniture in the Eastern Cape. The furniture will be delivered in all Eastern Cape schools by the middle of August 2014. Measures will be introduced to prevent public servants and public representatives from doing business with the state. These will be supported by improved implementation of the financial disclosure framework, strengthened protection of whistleblowers, and the provision of technical assistance to departments for the effective management of discipline. Compatriots, over the next 5 years, we will continue to promote the building of a better Africa and a more just world. South Africa will continue to support regional and continental processes to respond to and resolve crises, promote peace and security, strengthen regional integration, significantly increase intra-African trade, and champion sustainable development in Africa. This will entail supporting and executing decisions of the African Union, as well as the promotion of the work of its structures. We will also continue to promote South Africa cooperation by utilizing and engagements with formations and groupings of the South. Similarly, we will continue to promote mutually beneficial relations with countries of the North. We will continue to deepen economic development, trade and investment partnerships with the BRICS through the work of the BRICS Contact Group for Economic and Trade Issues. Honorable members, honorable guests, the South African National Defence Force has been a source of national pride as it participated in peacekeeping missions in the continent. This role will continue, and government is looking into the resourcing of the SANDF mandate in line with recently concluded defense review. Fellow South Africans, to take this program of action forward, the Deputy President and I will be meeting with ministers and deputy ministers to discuss the detailed implementation plans for each department. Each minister will sign a performance agreement with the President outlining what each department will do to deliver on the program of action. Compatriots, the 17th of June marks the 22nd anniversary of the horrific Boipatong massacre in Gauteng. Looking back at one of the worst horror stories in the recent history, we are reminded of the fact that we need to prioritize healing and nation building more than ever before. We must continue to build understanding, tolerance, and reconciliation, and together fight racism, xenophobia, homophobia, and all related intolerances. The use of sports and culture as a unifying factor in our country will continue during this term. We will also continue to promote the Constitution in schools and ensure that our children grow up with positive values and love for their country and its people. We will continue to build inclusive heritage over the next 5 years through building monuments and other symbols that honor the heroes and heroines of the struggle that delivered the freedom and democracy we enjoy today. As part of 20 years of freedom and democracy celebrations, records turning 20 years this year, such as those of the late former President Nelson Mandela's first days in office, will be transferred to the National Archives. This year, we'll also see the listing of the CODESA multi-party negotiating forum records in the international memory of the World Register. Next month, the country and the world will mark International Mandela Day. All South Africans should dedicate at least 67 minutes on the 18th of July to clean South Africa. Which is our theme for this year. Clean, clean, everything. Cities, everything. Let us begin planning for a major cleanup of our cities, towns, townships, villages, schools, and beautify every part of our country. Small steps, just like cleaning in front of your yard, next door, will help you to do bigger things. Fellow South Africans, this program of action is aimed at making South Africa a better place for all. We urge all South Africans to work with us, make the implementation of this program a success. Together, let us move South Africa forward. Thank you very much indeed. Speaker.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Why doesn't the media reach out to the kids?
I think the media is trying to reach out. Unfortunately, the media is trying to reach out on very negative issues only.
How do you feel about the media coverage leading up to?
Disappointed.
Very disappointing,
very disappointing.
Indeed.
My problem was that became the story about hunger rather than hunger. And I'm just a bit find it bizarre that we worry more about if a celebrity X can go on.
Seated at their places until the procession has left the chamber. The guests in the gallery are also urged to stay in their seats until the ushers have indicated that the doors are open. The procession, which will be led by the Sergeant-at-Arms and the usher, will leave the chamber in this order. The Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the President, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Deputy President, the Deputy Secretary to Parliament. This concludes the business of the day. This joint sitting is adjourned.
Which one?
And there you have it. That is the State of the Nation address by His Excellency Jacob Zuma, the President of the Republic of South Africa, on this occasion of the joint sitting of Parliament.
Well, Leanne. I remember the first words I came across were on page 2 of the speech. Change will not come about without some far-reaching interventions. But I guess the question, of course, is whether from the speech we gleaned any far-reaching interventions. And I guess that is what is going to be a moot point. And I'm sure political parties are not going to run out of things to say and expletives and all those things to describe what he just said.
Most definitely. Lots of things were spoken about in this State of the Nation. I think the President touching on most issues, but spending a lot of time particularly talking about the economy, which was expected. We certainly did speak about that in the beginning. And also on energy. That was a big crux of his speech. So I think that really is one of those issues that is being addressed here in South Africa. Energy, the issues of ICT, the issue of telecommunications, the issues of local municipalities and their performance as well, highlighting those are doing well, but also saying that so much more needs to be done. Mud schools, the bucket system, crime in South Africa, education, universities. The President really doing his best to touch on as many issues affecting particularly local government as he possibly can.
Yes, and one notices that nuclear energy is going to take the center stage. A lot has been said around that, the involvement of China and other BRICS countries. So it's going to be interesting to see how that particular issue sort of unfolds. Remember, we're in the middle of winter. A lot has been said about Eskom. I remember reading yesterday on my way here, Eskom saying actually if especially Gautengers behave, there wouldn't be a need for people to be without electricity. So it's going to be interesting to find out what's going to happen on that front. There's also several issues around local government. I'm sure a lot of people are going to raise the question of whether sort of enough was said and as strongly, as it perhaps ought to have been said. We'll hear, of course, both the ruling party and the opposition parties on that one as soon as they step out of that parliament. Well, in fact, some of them have already stepped out. And right now, let's go to Lucanio Kalata, who is standing by with the with the sort of FF Plus leader, Dr. Connie Mulder.
Vuyo, thank you very much. Yes, I'm joined by the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Peter Mulder. Sir, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Right. A very strong emphasis on energy that came through in the speech today. Were you satisfied with that?
Well, let me tell, the government's job is to create infrastructure, and that surely will support them. Whether it's nuclear energy, whether it's just energy, we need that for economic growth. On the negative side, I really experienced the President as muted a bit. The gas is out of the bottle, and there was no real original proposals. How are we going to get the country out of the economic crisis? Surely the infrastructure would help. But on the labour laws, for example, I needed something there to stop a repeat of the strike that we had. There was no mention of that at all. Housing alone is not going to solve that. Positive on corruption, that servants, officials are not allowed to do business with government servants. That's positive. And that hopefully will stop corruption or help corruption stop in the end of the day.
He spoke also on the issue of youth empowerment. Are you satisfied with that?
Well, he gave some statistics that the measures at the moment are working. There's a lot of criticism on that, and surely we need more of that to help with tax incentives to get the youth working and to help government and specific private sector to create those jobs, and that's positive as well,
All right, sir, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. We are hoping to get Mmusi Maimane from the Democratic Alliance. Mmusi Maimane is, of course, the leader of the Democratic Alliance in Parliament. Mr. Maimane, strong focus on the economy by the President.
Absolutely. Some of these things we've called for so many years, that the President's response is
in some ways a bit too late. There were some initiatives that are straight from the National Development Plan, which is an important document that the President put forward. They're going to take a lot of courage to implement. I'm concerned that President Zuma is living in one space while South Africans are living in a very, very difficult space. And I felt tonight the President had an opportunity to bring some very strong ideas, some very bold steps, and I didn't see that forthcoming.
Okay. Well, when you say bold steps, what would you have liked to hear?
I think even the procurement of energy, issues around there seems to be a greater interest from the President's side to increase state expenditure in this regard. You're not going to be able to collect the relevant revenue to do that. The President should have acted earlier and quicker. It must allow legislation to allow other people to be providers of energy. So there could have been a lot more that the President should have done decisively and boldly, and I felt he didn't do that.
All right. Mr. Maimane, thanks very much for joining us. That was Mmusi Maimane, the DA leader in Parliament. I now cross you over to my colleague Asanda Mbeche.
Thank you, Lukhanyo. Reverend Kenneth Mestre of the ACDP is joining us. Reverend, the President spoke a bit about stabilizing the mining industry. Looking back at all the issues and all the concerns we've had, he spoke about moving the mining framework that was brokered by Deputy President Motlanthe to the presidency now for his particular attention. What impact do you think that will have on stabilizing the mining sector?
Well, I'm not sure whether that is definitely going to make an impact, because promises have been made many times before. And today I think he repeated a number of promises that were made. So to move the responsibility that was given to the Deputy President to his office, I'm not sure how that is going to bring about the change. Now, he needs to convince us that when he makes promises, he keeps the promises. And because the track record is, there's never been promises that were made that have been fulfilled. One doubts whether moving from one department to the other is going to make any difference.
Do you think the support that was mentioned for municipalities will bring some difference?
You know, another promise, he said a plan of action. But what came out when he spoke about the plan of action, I was expecting 1 to 3 things that he was going to do, but it was just support. And obviously I have to ask the question, all these years were they not supporting the municipalities? And I'm sure they were supporting them, but their support was not working. So we needed to know what different things are they going to do rather than just support, because support means throwing the money at the problem, and I don't think that's a solution.
Thank you so much, Reverend. That's Reverend Kenneth Mestre of the ACDP. I understand Lukhanyo is already standing by with the SG of the ANC. Lukhanyo.
Sanda, thank you very much. Yes, I'm now joined by Mr. Gwede Mantashe, who is, of course, the Secretary General of the African National Congress. Mr. Mantashe, was that speech in keeping with the manifesto?
It is in line with the plan of the African National Congress, from the manifesto to the Lekgotla, to the Cabinet Lekgotla. Program of action, not theories, not concepts, clear targets, clear steps, good emphasis on the economy and employment creation, dedicated a lot of time on those issues which are critical, sufficient time paid on local government, which is quite critical for us to change the lives of our people. You will look into other aspects, whether you go to education and health, it is action-oriented, not concepts of how we write it in the manifesto. It is translation and interpretation of the manifesto into a program.
So I think what was surprising for a lot of us that were listening to the President was the issue of nuclear energy. Came out quite strongly about that.
It's not only nuclear. You remember that we said there are 4 sectors that are catalytic sectors. We said it's energy, it's transport infrastructure, it's ICT, water and sanitation. Those are the 4 areas. And therefore, all of them, there was enough emphasis on practical programs that will be there. Remember that there was a mention of coal 3 as well. There was a lot of mention on renewable energies, and therefore nuclear is one of the options, because we're talking of a balanced energy mix. And therefore that energy mix is necessary for us to be diversified, including sources energy from outside of the country, as mention was made of the Great Inga project.
All right. So thank you very much for your time. That was the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Gwede Mantashe. I now cross you back over to my colleagues, Vuyo Mvoko and Leanne Manes, but I'm sure they will come to us a little bit later on for more reactions.
Yeah, Lekanya, we certainly will, because we can see now everybody's out, everybody wanting to give their opinion on the President's State of the Nation address, and that's exactly what we are going to give our viewers as you stay tuned to us. Unfortunately, this time we have to say goodbye to our SABC2 viewers. Thank you very, very much for watching. But if you do have access to DSTV at this time, turn over to channel 404 and you'll be able to get some more running commentary from some of the opposition parties, including the EFF. I saw them walking out from their numbers. Julius Malema, I'm sure he's got a lot to say as well. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching SABC2.
Okay, true. Are you guys getting other languages? Okay, cool. Okay.
Well, welcome back, and if you just joined us, you are watching here on Channel 404, the SABC News channel, live broadcast. We're coming to you from Parliament in Cape Town, and right now we're busy with reactions from political parties across the spectrum, and Asanda Mbeche is standing by together with Lukhanyo Talata, and they're getting all the reactions for you from all opposition parties. Let's go straight away to Asanda.
Well, thank you, Vuyo. With me now is Mr. Mpeti, the leader of the PAC. Mr. Mpeti, the President spoke a lot about identifying agriculture as a key driver of job creation and the economy at large, but also spoke at length about the reopening of land claims, an issue that's been close to the PAC for a while. What's your take on how the country is moving forward in the land claims process?
I think what the President has said is what he said during the last State of the Nation address. There is no improvement. I mean, now he's saying only 1 million people should be employed by 2030, which is far, and it's a small number of people. Yet we have millions of people who are in the rural areas. And when coming to the claims, I think he did not even do half of the claims that were lodged. And now he wants to open again the claims, which I don't know where is he taking us to. He's just repeating himself. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the President is not doing well in this country.
Is there an area, though, of the President's speech where you thought he may be moving in the right direction?
I don't think the President is moving to any better direction. If you look at education, he's talking about children from 7 to 15 that should be in schools. I mean, we want free education from grade 1 up to the first degree in the universities. So in that, I don't think the President is doing well at all. That is my problem.
Mr. Mpeti, thank you very much. Let's go quickly to Lukhanyo on the other side of the courtyard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm now joined by the Chief Whip of the UDM, Mr. Nqaba Khwankwa. Sir, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening and thank you very much.
Let's talk a little bit about the economy and the huge emphasis that the President put on it. I see you smiling, does that indicate a level of satisfaction?
No, not at all. In fact, I think the entire speech was an underwhelming laundry list of promises once more. Because, for example, he spoke about radical economic transformation, but in the speech itself, we didn't hear anything radical about the promises and the plans that have been put in place. It's actually same old kind of stuff that we've had in the past. But what was also important is the focus on energy. I think we must compliment and commend the President on that, because it's a crisis that is also affecting the economy. But when it comes to other issues, we can't talk about radical economic transformation and trying to improve the growth performance, and then in the next sentence we talk about reviewing the minimum wage. How do we do that when, for example, you'd find employers in the business economy would complain about productivity? We need to balance it, encourage the dialogue between the social partners, and then take it from there.
All right. Youth empowerment. The President spoke a lot about that, and I know you obviously still being very young. You must must be at least satisfied with the emphasis that the President put on youth empowerment.
Of course, that's correct. We're very satisfied about that, but I think we need to make sure that we put more work on these internships and make sure that people actually get practical experience that they can use elsewhere. It's no use actually taking young people into government departments if all they're going to do is to make photocopies and then after that live with certificates that they cannot use.
All right. And then just finally, you touched on energy very, very briefly. What do you make of this strong emphasis on nuclear energy?
Well, yes, it's something that we need, for example, if we were to solve some of the energy crisis that we're facing. It's good for the country, but as long as we know that we're doing it the right way, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. No, Mr. Kwangwa, thank you very much. I am very grateful for your time. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we can now cross you back live to our colleague Asanda, who is standing by. Asanda?
Well, Lukhanyo, where I'm standing right now, firstly, it's a coincidence that we're both wearing red outfits, but I'm standing with one group that's very popular right now. Mr. Julius Malema, the President spoke about investigating the option of a national minimum wage. That's an issue the EFF touched on its manifesto. What's your take on that idea now?
It's not new. He said that in the manifesto of the ANC. They said that during the campaign, they even announced that the Minister of Labour is busy investigating minimum wage. So there's nothing exciting except a blowing of hot air and repetition of the things that we have heard before, sometimes playing to the gallery and not really meaning what he's saying.
An issue that's close to the helmet you're wearing. The President spoke about implementing the mining framework that was brokered under Deputy President Mohlante, moving into the presidency, but also monitoring the mining charter targets. What's your take on that?
The President says they are going to be moving in terms of housing and the living conditions of the workers in the mining sector. But that is what the mining charter says. And the ANC people clap hands to mediocrity. He's plagiarizing the mining charter without even referring to it. That's what it says. And the mining, including government, have failed to implement what the mining charter says.
Mr. Malema, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's the
much.
leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Let's go back to the studio.
Well, political parties, of course, as I said earlier, never short of words.
Certainly not. Everybody wanting to put their ideas forward and give their reaction to the State of the Nation address. And it's interesting to see, especially what our EFF leader had to say. You saw throughout his speech that not on one occasion did they either clap or stand up on the arrival
no
of
clapping from them, no standing ovation, certainly from the EFF. The DA talking about too little, too late, no bold steps, decrying lost opportunities. But of course, the ANC itself saying clear targets, clear steps, we rocking
in line
and rolling.
with our mandate and our policies. So those are some of the reactions that we've heard so far from some of the parties. Let's go back to Lukhanyo. He's standing on the carpet, so he's able to get a lot more reaction. Lukhanyo, who are you joined by now?
I saw that. All right, and now we're standing with the leader of the Inkatha Freedom Party in Parliament, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Sir, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sir, the President's speech, very, very heavy focus on the economy. In general, were you satisfied with that?
No, I wasn't satisfied. I mean, he said the right things because he spoke about the fact that to create jobs, you must have economic growth. But at the same time, he actually disclosed that economic growth in this country is very low. Nothing is happening in that direction. So you cannot create jobs if there's no economic growth. And he also mentioned the issue of an environment, that one must create an environment which is conducive to people coming to invest their money. And I don't think that things that are happening in our country, such as corruption and all other things which are not specific, which are known to all South Africans, can actually induce people to see South Africa as a safe place, a safe destiny for their investments.
So from what you're telling me then, you don't think that this dream of raising the economy by 5% in the next 5 years is a reality?
We have not been able to do so. While we must acknowledge the fact that there's a recession all over the place, but I was in government for 10 years, and we aimed for this ever since 1994, and we have never actually been able to achieve that target at all. But on the contrary, things are really going down. Just recently, we've been downgraded just recently, which is actually, even that doesn't convince me that there is any prospect in the near future that we'll have actually a country which actually can achieve that kind of growth.
All right. Sir, thank you very much, and thanks very much for joining us. I will now hand you back over to my colleague Asanda Mbeche that's standing by. Asanda.
We're now joined by the leader of the National Freedom Party, Mr. Nele Kamagwaza Msebi. Ma'am, your party is new to Parliament, one of the first entrants for this first Parliament. What's the NFP's take around the President's commitment to support municipalities, to move the support of municipalities, particularly on infrastructure, also water and sanitation with 100 new projects? What's your take around that commitment?
As NFP, we appreciate that the municipalities will be getting a lot of assistance from national and provincial government. That is the responsibility, constitutional responsibility of the national government. But also what is important is whether municipalities do have competent people who will be able to implement those projects. Because in most of the cases, people are being deployed in municipalities, people who do not have experience, people who do not qualify, and that cripples municipalities. But I'm glad that the President also spoke at length about water and sanitation, because those are the problems that are experienced by people on the ground, because we need to move and ensure that these things are implemented, not to talk about them, because I see a lot of wish lists, but we need to ensure that practically these things are done, because these things have a tendency of creating expectations from people, and people engage in social protests, more especially because they don't see these things implemented on the ground.
Well, ma'am, thank you very much. That's the leader of the National Freedom Party saying we need to deliver on the promises and the expectations that we are now bolstering. We'll go back to Vuyo in the studio right now.
Well, thanks very much there to Asanda Mbeche, who, of course, will keep on bringing us those reactions from political parties across the spectrum. But right now, though, here in studio, I'm joined by the Minister for Human Settlements, Lindiwe Sisulu. Minister, thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's an issue that has been with us, and I'm going to start somewhat differently and say, certainly during the campaigning period,
yes,
people started asking questions about whether, in fact, providing housing for South Africans is the way to go, and whether perhaps we shouldn't have a different way of approaching human settlements broadly.
Yes. Well, you know, the provision of housing is already enshrined in the Constitution, so it's a bit late now to ask that question. But it is understandable that people should worry whether, in fact, we are going to stem the tide. Because internationally it is accepted that urbanization is with us for the long term. So how are we going to cope with this influx of people from the rural areas into the urban areas? And this is a million-dollar question that we ourselves have to respond to. But we have a multi-pronged approach to solving some of the problems that we have. And which is why now government has decided that it will work in a integrated fashion as opposed to individual departments going their various ways, which is the original concept that we had for human settlements, that where people are, all the facilities will be in place. But significantly now, the President is seized with the issue of the housing needs of the mining sector, because that has been in our face, has caused enormous grief to all of us, has caused wave shocks in our economy, and that is what he would like us to concentrate on and make sure that we can grapple with. But we will have to provide housing. We will gradually shift towards what is called rental housing, where people actually rent housing and are responsible for the payment of housing. The free housing we've been providing has been strictly for the indigent.
Now, I'm trying to, without perhaps getting you to sort of find fault in what the person who held this portfolio before you may or may not have done. But here's an issue for me. For someone who's been in that portfolio before,
yes,
and having seen what has happened, especially over the past 5 years, where are you going to begin? And this is a question I wanted to ask you about a week ago when we tried to talk to you immediately after the swearing in.
Okay. Now, what happened is the whole concept of human settlement materialized after we had consolidated the work that we were doing together with other countries of like development, like India, like Brazil. And we came up with the idea of human settlements, which is why we changed the name to human settlements. I don't think that the policies were necessarily understood and followed through. But we're back there now, and I will not go into the pettiness of what happened above that. But we're going back to human settlements as we conceptualized it. And fortunately for me, I will be working with one of the other people who conceptualized this, who was my MEC in housing, in Gauteng, Nomvula. She's dealing with sanitation. So we're hoping we will make a very good pair to actually put back where we were and get us on track. Housing delivery has fallen 50% countrywide in the last 5 years. And there's no way that we can, cope with that. We've got to accelerate, and we've got to do things the way that originally we had thought we were going to do them. The policy we adopted was acknowledged internationally, accepted by the UN Habitat, and sold to all African countries as a model for the way to go. And if it has that kind of stamp of approval, we'll stick with that.
But how easy or difficult do you think it's going to be, given that your partner in this instance is going to be someone who's also inherited a problem that, in fact, we didn't deliver on, having set deadlines? We did set deadlines as a country, which we did not honor. We didn't honor our own deadlines and our own promise. So
yes, but because now our approach is to work in conjunction with each other, because there's an interdependence which we cannot run away from. Working in silos is now something of the past. So these subcommittees that the President has put in place are absolutely pivotal to making sure that when we talk about eradication of bucket system, we're talking about human settlements and sanitation. So any of the targets that we may have set, separate from the interdependence that we have, dealing with the same thing, would not have worked. So those were targets that would not have been achievable. And we have seen that. We went around the country, we saw the situation where there is no sanitation. There might be a toilet but no water there, where there might be foundations and no houses there, and all of those problems that our people are experiencing. And we sat down and examined over the past 2 weeks what the problem is, and we think that the solution has been there, and we're going to follow that solution.
Well, Minister, unfortunately we've run out of time. We're going to have to go to those political parties to give them their fair share of responses.
And tell those political parties that it's 20 years of success, and we're very proud of it, and we've learned from that, and we're correcting that, because they're going to be a very sour group out there. Yeah. We're very proud of ourselves.
We'll hear what they have to say. Minister for Human Settlements, Lindiwe Sisulu. Well, it's back to Lukhanyo and Asanda.
Well, thank you, Vuyo. With me now from business is Mr. Egbert Survey. So the President spoke a lot. He dedicated a lot of his speech on the economy, about SMMEs, but also boosting implementation on broad-based Black economic empowerment. What's businesses' take around prospects that could come from there?
I think, firstly, congratulations to the President. It was a very good speech, very, very focused on economy, on development. His focus on small business, Black economic empowerment, integrations into the African economy, into the BRICS economy. I thought all of that was great. I think for business, this is going to be a great 5-year term of the President.
But is business doing the necessary groundwork, for instance, to capitalize on all the work that's being done on the free trade area, but also on partnerships within the BRICS partnership?
I think President said that he's going to call together the presidential working group on business. And I think that's going to be really critical to bring business and government together with a strategy, also to tackle into BRICS. As a BRICS Business Council member, I think there's huge opportunities for South African business. And I think the President is leading the way. This was a great speech from President Zuma.
There's been talk by other members of the business community about legislation, labour legislation particularly, being restrictive. What's the BRICS Council take on that?
Look, I think protecting labour is important. Organised labour is important. But I think we've got to get the balance right between the rights of ordinary workers and minimum wages, and also creating enough jobs for the country. So I think business and government has got to get that balance right. I think we're moving in the right direction. There's no one answer for everything.
Well, thank you so much, sir. That's Mr. Iqbal Survey, a member of the BRICS Council. Let's go back to the studio to Vuyo and Leanne.
Thanks very much, Sandra. Well, still getting the reaction from the political parties and some of the analysts on the ground, as well as they, I suppose, mull over what was said with the State of the Nation. And just to talk about a couple of the highlights, let's have a look and see what the President focused on. Well, I think one of the biggest focuses, and everybody talking about it, definitely on energy. That seems to be the biggest, the biggest topic of conversation that's come out of the State of the Nation address, as well as the economy. Now, we were expecting a lot of talk on the economy and the way forward for South Africa, so it comes as no surprise that the President focused in on this. Infrastructure also taking up a lot of time, talking about infrastructure and where he sees South Africa going and the amount of money that's going to be spent on developing the country and infrastructure in particular. Something that was quite interesting as well was highlighting one particular sector, and that sector, agriculture, by saying that they want to introduce 1 million jobs by 2013 within the agricultural industry. Now, a lot of people are very happy about that, and but I suppose the big question is how. We need to be able to bring in those jobs and put out definite timelines as to how that's going to happen and what mechanisms are going to be in place. So agriculture taking centre stage as well. Another issue that a lot of people, I've been having a look at Twitter and seeing what some of the viewers and the South African public are talking about. One of the issues they're talking about is that performance agreement that ministers are going to sign. Now, that's something new. That's something that was spoken about this evening in the State of the Nation address, that there is going to be a meeting between the President and the Deputy President where ministers are going to sign a performance agreement. And I imagine if they don't achieve what's written in that contract and the key priorities within their different ministries, there's going to be a lot of reshuffling that'll take place. Now, Vuyo, you know, we've seen it happening. I mean, President Jacob Zuma has got absolutely no problem when it comes to reshuffling his cabinet, taking ministers away from a portfolio, not only ministers, a lot of other key members within provinces and departments. So this, I think, is one of those steps forward where now it's on written paper. If you do not perform, you're out.
Well, I mean, remember, it's not the first time. He did have contracts with them before. But you are quite right that he has delivered on that. We've seen a lot more ministers being removed or changed than was the case before. But I still think that it sort of didn't get to it hasn't as yet gotten to a point where, for example, it is obvious, it is made very obvious as to why we're removing this one or replacing this one with this one, what they have or haven't done. It's only in situations like you had the interview I just had with the Minister of Human Settlements, where she was talking, she did sort of go briefly, although she was reluctant. I actually dragged her into that to say, you know, over the past 5 years, you know, we did have some problems. But the problem with that is that you only hear this, you know, sort of via the grapevine in a hush-hush sort of way. You never hear boldly people or the president or those around him saying, actually, we think Minister so-and-so didn't deliver and here are our reasons. And as a result, there are a lot of conspiracy theories. People would say, so-and-so has been removed for this or the other reasons because those reasons have not been forwarded. I'm not saying they should conduct their business in public all the time, but where it's of utmost benefit to us to get an understanding of what the thinking is and where things are going, why things are done this way and not the other way. I think it is important for some messages to be sent out there, and
to
hopefully we'll get
this is why they didn't
to that point at some point. But for now, though, let's go back to the opposition parties.
No, don't stay here, ma'am. Stay. Okay, we're now joined by the Minister of International Relations. Ma'am, a lot of responsibility tasked on you by the President for the next 5 years, especially moving into the continent.
Well, it's an honor, and I join fellow South Africans in congratulating our President for having laid out our movement forward, and how he had also invited South Africans to say, in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, this is how we are going to move this continent, this country, this economy, integrating it with our own neighborhood, making sure that indeed we continue to sustain peace, security, and development, but in the same vein, integrate our economy in the broader, immediate market that's viable for us with a billion population.
All right, ma'am, that's fine. We appreciate your time, and thank you so very much for talking to us, ma'am. Thanks very much. All right, we are now hoping to just quickly see if we can grab the Secretary General of COSATU, Mr. Zwelinzima Mavavi. Sir, good evening, and thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, the President spoke a lot about the economy, growing it for over the next 5 years, 5% growth. Do you think that's achievable?
Look, it depends on what is in the package and what needs to happen. Look, from our point of view, from a COSATU Congress point of view, we can never achieve the fundamental change that we need in South Africa until we recognize that most of our woes comes from the fact that we inherited a growth path from the apartheid era that is simply unable to respond to the triple crisis of unemployment, poverty, and inequalities. We need to change that structure. We need to move away from an economy that is dominated by the mining, finance, and heavy chemicals. We need to emphasize more on industrialization. The President did touch on that, but then we will say he didn't go far enough. We must say that macroeconomic policies of the country must change to robustly ensure that we can industrialize. Resources must be released. Resources must be diverted away from other not so big priorities towards industrialization. That's the only way we can ensure decent job agenda prevails in the country.
That industrialization will require energy, though, and it's something that is quite critical in the country.
Absolutely. The emphasis on energy is critical, and I think that we like the fact that the President kept on emphasizing on the need for this energy mix. I'm not a fan of nuclear. I must say COSATU is not a fan of nuclear. We think that we have not had a proper discussion about that matter, not anywhere else, certainly not in the country. We worried about the disasters that nuclear is always associated with, the latest being the Japan disaster. We wonder if South Africa is really ready to implement the energy complex in the country. But of course, the renewables that the President was referring to is something that we fully support. Of course, energy is critical. We can't go on with this lights on, lights off, putting all manner of restrictions on mining and other critical sectors of the economy when we need to ensure that we can support them through energy. So that focus was absolutely correct.
All right, and then just lastly, sir, before I let you go, also there was a very strong emphasis on the local government, something that COSATU is obviously very concerned about. Were you happy with that?
Well, we're very happy, and I hope that the mentioned municipalities are not the only ones that will see some attention, because if we were just to focus on the basket of those that are mentioned, then we will fall far short in addressing what everybody regards as a crisis of a lack of proper governance and delivery at the local government level. That focus is the correct one. We hope that the President will rally, in particular the Minister of Local and Corporate Governance, to ensure that every province, every municipality can respond to the challenge of ensuring that the local government works. Because that's where most of the delivery happens.
All right, sir, thank you very much. That was the Secretary General of COSATU, Zwelinzima Mavavi. I'll now hand you back over to my colleagues in studio, Vuyo and Leanne.
Well, thanks very much to Lukhanyo. Well, I have with me here in studio the Minister responsible for economic development. Minister, so many issues, but we're not going to have time. Let me start with the growth target of 5% by 2019.
I think that that's consistent with the National Development Plan, but what the President really has said is if we want to achieve that kind of growth and the jobs that that creates, we've got to get some things right. We've got to resolve not only the short-term issues of the mining strike, but also the underlying social problems that causes the unhappiness and that weakens the possibility of social partnership. Energy is key. If we don't create a much bigger capacity to generate energy, we're not going to attract investment.
I guess the obvious question there is, why didn't we do that over the past 5 years? In other words, what are we going to do differently? What withheld us from doing what ought to have been done a long time ago?
I'd say over the last 5 years in the economy, one of our most significant gains was the National Infrastructure Plan. It laid the basis. But a lot of that was focused on areas like water, schools, and so on. We're undertaking now some big energy programs, Medupi in Limpopo, Kusile in Mpumalanga, Ingula in KwaZulu-Natal. And the commitment the President is giving is we're going to conclude those programs.
Well, your erstwhile colleague, Zwelinzima Vavi, if one listens to him carefully, he says there is nothing you are going to be able to do because you have inherited apartheid's way of doing things and you don't seem too keen to be actually moving at a faster rate or at the required pace to do what needs to be done.
You know, Vuyo, one of the things we did, we looked at the spending on infrastructure, the investment, the real investment, not the plans, but what we're actually doing over the last 40 years. And we're now spending in real terms significantly more than apartheid spent at its high point. So in fact, that's not the case. We are doing things quite differently because we've got to change the spatial patterns of apartheid and where we put infrastructure. Much more the infrastructure now is in rural areas. Much more of what we do is about empowering ordinary South Africans. So the story that we will be pursuing in the next 5 years is one in which infrastructure is combined with industrialization to create jobs in South Africa, to bring development to the nation.
Now, if the government's analysis, as I sort of read it from what the President said, is that slow growth has been caused by global economic slowdown as well as by domestic conditions such as the strikes and also the shortage of energy. You did speak about the shortage of energy. But what's going to stop you, what's going to stop him, what's going to stop anyone from government from turning around if you don't achieve that 5% by 2019 and say it wasn't us, it was these external forces?
One of the challenges we have is to change the patterns of our own trade with the rest of the world. Africa is the big success story. We've got to orient much more of our trade with the rest of the continent. And we don't do that only as an act of will. We've got to invest in infrastructure. I did a map once looking at the railway lines across the continent, and they don't connect to each other. They connect to ports because Africa's industrialization has been absent. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're changing the patterns, much more south-south trade with the BRICS countries and with the rest of the continent.
Minister, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thanks very much for talking to us this evening. You're welcome. And unfortunately, that's where we are going to leave it for this evening. On behalf of myself, Lee Ann, and the rest of the crew, it's a goodbye from Cape Town.